Welcome everyone to another very special episode of Chat, Grapple and Cheek Pops podcast. I am Chris Dredd, here with my main man JB, and we have got another special interview that has just literally popped out of nowhere. We will do a review soon. We've done a UK review, but we're going to do another pay-per-view review soon. But this one we could not say no to. So, JB.
We couldn't say no. We couldn't wait. This has to be done. We are so excited for this one to come to everyone. Hot damn. Strap yourselves in. It's going to be fun.
Welcome everyone to another extremely special episode of Chat, Grapple and Cheek Pops podcast. I am Chris Dredd. I'm here with my main man JB, and we've got an absolutely fantastic guest with us today. He is former WCW, WWF, ECW, All Japan, NWA TNA, and 1992 Pro Wrestling Illustrated Rookie of the Year. I'm sure he's done a hell of a lot of other shit in between that too. He is the amazing Erik Watts.
How's it going, my brothers?
Good,
JB,
man.
JB, how you doing, man? Since you set this thing up, baby.
Oh man, I am absolutely fucking thrilled that you are here. This is.
Boy, didn't I had to cover my butt the other day calling you and apologize like 10 times over, JB. Like I got my wires crossed and I got 3 different, UK things, and I'm like, and I thought everyone's on the same page, and I completely banged it up, and you could not be more professional and say, Erik, it's okay. And yet I apologize like 10 more times after that. So I'm sorry, my man, but I love being on your show.
Like we said, it was never a problem in the first place. We thank you so much for being with us. This is, Erik Watts is in the house, metaphorically, obviously, because we're split up here. But
yes, sir.
Damn, we're excited.
Man, I'm excited too. We're going to knock this show out.
Man, just really excited to have someone like yourself on who has literally probably seen everything there is to see. You've probably, growing up in the business as you did, you were growing up with some of the absolute greats in the business, right? Man,
listen, you can't see if you can see the hair on my arm, when you guys talk about that, right? I used to tell people, I don't know whether I'm a mark or a wrestler or a fan, or, it's such a melting pot for me. And to say that my life has been a complete dream and blessing, I can only say my life has been a complete dream and blessing. I called Ted DiBiase for the first time the other day to talk to him about an angle that he did with Ric Flair. And he was like, hey, Erik, let me call you right back. I'm with Teddy Jr. for his birthday, and I love you. And, I called Jim Ross. Jim Ross, when I'd go home from school, I'd stop in the office, and there's my dad and Jim Ross. And Jim would either give me a good sign, like my dad's having a good day, or a bad day. And then if it was a good sign, I'd stay. If it was bad, I got the hell out, right? Because, he might have even fined me, and I was like 12, 13, 10, whatever it was. My dad fined everybody. And, to sit there and, have relationships with Sting, and Junkyard Dog, he gave me my first nickname, Slick Slam, and we just keep on going. I was talking to Jody Hamilton Jr. yesterday, saying, "Hey, did I hear that you had a wrestling school?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm carrying the tradition on because his dad just passed away. I got 2 or 3 people that want to go to a school, but I got to go to somewhere they trust." And he's shooting images of him at Mid-South. Shawn Michaels. I remember Shawn Michaels coming up to me and going, "Erik, man, I've got young kids, and all they've seen me is win, 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 and they see me on the top. I want to show them that I had to start at the bottom." And I said, "So what are you asking me?" He goes, "Can I get some Mid-South stuff?" So I was like, "Yeah." So I called my brother. I'm like, "Hey, can you bang out a CD of like 5, 6 Shawn Michaels match and send it to this address?" And he was like, "No problem." Shawn called me back. He was like, "Erik, I love you, baby. And you sent me like 5, 6 matches, but I kind of want to send them back." I go, "What's wrong?" He goes, "All I did was get my ass whooped." And I don't even think that you sent me a match over 5 minutes. I go, "But here's the deal. My dad knew you're so talented because you took the best ass whoopings I've ever seen." I did, because I didn't know what my brother, I don't remember all the matches. So I had to just react. And Shawn's like, "I don't even know if I want to show my kids this." I go, "That's on you, baby. Love you." So I can go on, man. For forever and ever, my mom talked about us staying humble. and that, you know, God had blessed us, and therefore people, you know, religious, not religious, however you are, to be humble, right? My mom and her family escaped. They were well-to-do in Estonia. And then when the Russians took them over, they literally took all the jewelry and all the things they could and snuck out on a milk wagon, like the milk wagons out. The dad didn't make it through and made it to the shore and bartered, and the boat had been hit in the World War and started to sink outside Germany. So then my mom and the family, they could have come over separate, but they stayed 7 years in concentration camps, which were called deportation camps, for 7 years before they came over. And so she's like, you know, understanding to be humble and humility is very important. And so, you know, as a kindergartner, first grade, second grade, over in America, they do a lot of what they call show and tell. You bring something special from home and you talk about it. And, you know, mom's like, that's cool, but then that could be like braggadocious. And I'm like, okay, so I never did it. It was on my third or fourth grade year. I'm like, I know dad works. I know dad's only in town 4 or 5 days a month, you know, and most of the time it'd be like to get home to write checks to send out to people and stuff. And I'm like, Mom, is there any way you can see if dad would just show up for show and tell? And she's like, Eric, you know, you've been so good and so patient that if you want show and tell, let me look into it. I said, okay. So a few weeks later, she goes, hey, you know what? Next time they do show and tell, do you know the date? I told her the date. She goes, I'll talk to your dad. So she didn't say dad would show up. So I remember she goes, that morning, she goes, hey, I got something for you for show and tell. So now I'm in the front of the class and I don't even know what the heck I'm presenting. And I'm like, they're like, Eric, show and tell. And my mom, because there's a door and there's a small window, and my mom's like this. And I go, I got something for show and tell. And all the kids are like, okay, whatever. And then the door opens up, and then all of a sudden the biggest afro comes in and ducks under. And my mom actually brought Andre the Giant for my show and tell. Okay. Right after my class, Andre said, can I have lunch with you guys? And so we're in the middle school, right? They have all these tables with the seats already attached. He couldn't fit. So they brought him his own table, and he was actually trying to eat off the meal trays. The fork barely fit in his hand, and he sat there and ate with me. Do you understand? After that point, there was nothing more special that ever happened to that town again. It was just over. I was the man. And my mom didn't do it. My mom didn't do it so that I was popular. My mom did it because, like, you know, she was teaching me a lesson, like being humble and respectful for long times, then you should be like rewarded. But who in the F brings Andre the Giant to show and tell? And he even pulled off his ring, you know, the right side ring, in which you know, would be the wedding ring on your left. And then my mom had set it up, you know, you could pass a silver dollar through his ring. That's how big his hand was. Okay. And he'd actually come in town because my dad was going to bonus him some boots, because he would always say, you know, boss, I like your boots. So my dad had a whole bunch of collections of boots, but he had very high dollar, you know, and so these were ostrich boots he wanted. So the funny story is this place called Drysdale's, huge country store in Oklahoma, and they got them, and they were 23 quadruple E was the size. We got there, my dad gave them as a gift. They're too small. So my dad calls up Drysdale's and goes, these are too small. They're like, we can't send them back. My dad's, well, you're buying them back no matter what. Like, what do you want us to do with them? And they go, well, you got an Oklahoma City and you got a Tulsa location. Take a picture with him and put him in a glass box and say, Andre the Giant, we ordered him boots and they're too small, 23 quadruple E. They did it. They paid him twice as much as my dad paid for them. And they said it was the number one reason that they had thousands upon thousands of people a year. Even if they didn't buy boots, they came to see Andre the Giant's boots. That's how brilliant my dad was. Always marketing, you know. And the night before, the Tulsa World had got with my dad, and my dad was going to do a promotion and said, why don't you go out eating and drinking with me and Andre? The night before, Andre, and it's in the Tulsa World paper, head story, he drank 101 Coors Lights, 12-ounce Coors Lights, 2 quarts of Jack Daniels and ate 7 T-bone steaks. And my dad's deal was, you take us out, you get the interview if you pay his bill. and all it did was put over Andre the Giant Mid-South Sports. You know, so my dad was always working the deal. So to say that I've got a million stories in one, it's not because I'm special, my friends. I'm nobody. I swear to God, I'm nobody. You guys are the most important thing in the world. And I tell people this, I get podcast requests all the time, and I can only take so many. But if it wasn't for people like you to hand down stories and histories to people, then there wouldn't be any stories and histories. Like, my dad will not do a podcast. He won't do anything. I begged him. He finally did one last night. And he told me, he goes, Erik, that was so much fun. But the person that did the podcast said, you know, Mr. Watts, I wish YouTube was so popular before, because you can find all this wrestling. And then they said, do you understand that what you created will be alive forever? And you know, my dad's done a lot and seen a lot. And I'm like, and I thought about it. I called him later. I go, think about that. Forever. Ever's a long time, right? And you did that. And not that he knows what he did and didn't do. But my point is, my portion of it is, I wasn't as brilliant per se or whatever as my dad. He's the #1 booker, even per Vince McMahon, Jerry Jarrett, any of those people say he's the #1 booker. He's one of the #1 talents. To me, he was #1. I'm partial though, but to sit there and live with a legend and be around a legend, then have the opportunity to be with guys like you that give a shit and to hand it back down. I could not be more honored to be on your show and do something like this, because no matter how many times people hit up this podcast episode, it will go down as long as this episode's on YouTube and the different things that happen. And it's not because of me. It's because you guys, JB, you guys reach out to me, and you're allowing me to just love up on pro wrestling that fed me and fed my children. That's it. So F&A, thank you guys.
Man.
No, thank you. Like I said, thank you for coming on. Thank you for agreeing to chat to us. I mean, Erik freaking Watts.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Erik,
man.
so are we to believe that the Mid-South video library is actually one of them that Vince McMahon didn't get his hands on?
No. Well, no. Yeah, he got his hands on it like 5 years ago, because, or it might have been longer. I remember making the deal with my mom. This is what happened. Oh, well, okay. I got to be very careful with what I'm saying. Okay,
sure.
Let's go that route.
Sure.
There is a Mid-South or Universal Wrestling Federation website. So for those of the people that want to look at the history of it, go check it out. And there may be some products there. But Vince McMahon owns it, okay, but doesn't own those websites, Universal Wrestling, Mid-South Sports, and I think it's Universal Wrestling Archives or Universal Wrestling. I should know this shit, but my brother's the one that manages it. The situation that happened to us, and it was like a jab in our heart. So when we finally decided, how do we take all this wrestling we have from the 70s all the way up, how do we archive it? So you guys may know this, may not. There were 1-inch reels. There were 3/4-inch reels. I mean, my dad was doing the interview yesterday, and I forgot about it. Those reels were so effing expensive that they would send them out to TV stations, have them play them, send them back, and sometimes erase and re-record over them, because they're so expensive. And then here's the difference. So if my dad was in 25 cities, TV-wise, he had to send out 25 copies. And I remember, because they'd come in these cases, and most of the time you'd see like a Braniff Airlines sticker or a Delta or American Airlines, because they'd take them on the airlines and they'd send them over to these towns just in time for them to play them. Then those people would send them back. So you could imagine the cost. And that was one thing that blew me away, was I would be there, and sometimes, you know, the wrestling show would go, and then you'd keep the guys afterwards to do the interviews. And when I say those interviews lasted 14, 18 hours straight sometimes, because they had to do promos for every town for every fucking week. So if they did the TV today and they had 24 towns, that means if he had 5 guys doing promos, take 5 times 24, that's 100, that's 120 something odd promos. So, and they had to be looped in and sent and done. And so there was a lot of stress on my brother and Jim Ross and the cover, and adding in. It's so different. So what ended up happening was, Von Erich sold their library, and then Vince didn't research it. And they found out that like 90% of his library was in an open air bar. And so they went there and like 90% of the library was shit. We kept everything in air conditioning and this. So the problem is even though we kept in air conditioning, some of the stuff that we had from the 60s and 70s somehow was getting like moisture and some mold. And so now we're trying to buy the machines to transfer it at that time to VHS. And the tape would break. And then my brother's trying to boom the light, strip it of mold. Jesus Christ, we were buying, so then it got to Betamax machines, which were easier. But if I told you we bought 100 Betamax machines, we bought 100 of them, and they'd break, and we take parts, and so we're just doing this. Ted Turner even got involved because he loved our family, so much. Now, Dad and Ted had a different relationship, but Ted's like, let me see what I can do. So then Ted, for a while, let us use his facility, and when I say like the suits like you see NASA and shit, so our tapes had to come, they had to open them up, they had to fumigate them, did it, and still it took forever to do it because if it corrupted equipment and did this, because this is my equipment. So now we're pushing it as fast as we can to VHS, and then what happens to VHS? So now we're going to CD. So realistically, from what I understand, we had, and I could get Mike on here some other time if we do this. I don't know what we had, 2,000-3,000 hours of TV. And I think that over 10 years, we got like almost 400 hours. And I remember going to my mom, because my mom's like, here's the problem. It's not Vince's fault. He just takes and deals with what he wants to deal with. We want to archive this so that it's no one's choice. We want it as a free library out there. But it was costing us millions and millions of dollars to try to archive it. And we got to the point where we just could not continue to do it because we're selling DVDs and da-da-da. But if you're talking about millions and millions of dollars, and it just broke my mom's heart. And I said, Mom, we got to tap the fuck out. Because here's the deal. I mean, it's up to Vince what he does. And hopefully he will. And if he splices and use some and not some, he has the money to sit there and archive or regenerate what he can get 10 times more than us. So what do? And it was a struggle. I mean, because I'll tell you what, I called Vince myself. He flew us out first class, limos, and the whole shit. And Jim Ross and 10 other people were there. And he made an offer, and my mom, I remember going back to the airport. My mom was just in tears. And she's like, I got to hand this over, not knowing what they're going to do. I go, here's the other option. What do we do? Like, we have to wait every time we get $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 worth of sales to take that money just to put it right back in. And then we're doing it as fast as we can. We just can't fulfill because my brother would have to then sit there and take what he has on a hard drive. We had stacks of VHSs, sending the bullshit to one VHS. Then you had to take the VHS and hook it up because it wasn't digital like CDs. And then you had to have these mega stacks, hot as hell. And he's going, bro, if you got an hour show and you got 20 stacks, you can only make 20 videos. If you're selling the videos for $20, you're only talking about $800. So if you're only producing, let's say $800 an hour for 24 freaking hours a day, how much are you bring? So the arithmetic just killed it, and it was heart-wrenching because you guys, I don't know how well you read and studied this, but the things my dad did, no one did. We had hours of Muhammad Ali loved my father so much, and then fell in love with my brother Joel, that he even invited Joel to the house and said, Joel, you know, the mosque is a sacred ground of religion in which we can invite people into that don't have the faith. But what if I leave the door cracked? Could you videotape me praying? Guys,
wow.
Muhammad Ali praying in a mosque. We had it. We have Jerry Reed. I don't know if you guys remember Smoking the Bandit, Jerry Reed, Jerry Reed, Andre the Giant. We have all this behind ZZ Top. We have all this behind the scene footage. I mean, and some of that footage helped us out because people that were making movies or doing excerpts or doing an interview about Andre the Giant, we used to do a lease agreement to where, like, if a movie studio wanted 60 seconds of Andre the Giant, we would lease it to him for $1,000 a second. So we get $60,000. But that sounds like people are like, oh my gosh. No, we were doing it to put back in the equipment. And so we were running we were like rats on a treadmill, and we couldn't produce it fast enough. Because I mean, how embarrassing if we had 3,000 or 4,000 hours and we only got like 400 hours in like 10 years. And so I don't know, because when Vince and them bought all that stuff, you know, it was U-Hauls and because we kept it as pristine as we could. You know, there was a pro wrestling movie called Wrestling Queen. And so that's the only thing we didn't sell library-wise to Vince was Wrestling Queen. But he got all the UWF, Mid-South Sports, and some of the Texas organizations in which we did some stuff for.
Yeah, right. I recently watched on the network. It was your dad and Junkyard Dog when he was under the mask.
Yeah,
against the Midnight Express, I think.
Stagger Lee.
Yeah, Stagger Lee. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Is it Stagger Lee? And those T-shirts we were so hot. It said Stagger Lee or JYD.
JYD. Yeah, on the front. Yeah, man. And so that was on the network. That's on the WWE network. So there is some stuff on there, you know, there is some. Yeah. But you know, what, you know, how they're putting it up there or how much is going to go up there or whatever, like you say, only time will tell.
You're 100% right. You know, so again, yeah, I mean, even listening to my dad the other day, there's just so many stories I don't know about, can't remember. I can't tell you how many times I ran into people like Macho Man or Shawn Michaels or whomever, and they pull me aside and go, let me tell you about your father and the only reason we're in wrestling. And they used to tell me these stories that I'd heard, but my dad never told me. I just heard that my dad did this and didn't do it. Man, to hear those stories coming from the horse's mouth was amazing. Then I give Dad, and he's like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, that's what I did. I remember when I came to Georgia to do WCW, my dad was down here and so was Dusty Rhodes. And my dad would say, hey, son, you got, you know, your day off coming up. Yeah, because let's go have some beers and watch some football with the Dream. So we go to the Dream's house. Forget it. I mean, I wish I had a camera. As soon as we stepped in, they're popping beers, they're having a shot, they're drinking. We're on the back deck. And for the next 6 hours, I don't know how much football we heard. If I had the stories they told, it's done. It's over. And not because of money, ethic. I just wish people could hear the stories 1,000 times over. The coolest stuff you've ever heard in your life.
I mean, it's incredible. I mean, your dad really did pioneer that kind of episodic weekly TV kind of thing that we become to know as wrestling now. You know, that the storylines on a weekly basis, you know, that was Cowboy Bill Watts. That was...
It was amazing. Even the names, even the people he put together, the tags he put together. Now listen, and the crazy thing about my dad, he gives Cornette and Crockett, and no, not Cornette at the time, Crockett and Jarrett and Gagne's and all those people. He gives all those people the respect. He, in no way does he say, "Oh no, I did it on my own." Like he did. Like he was talking yesterday about the fact that, you know, when Vince Sr. would call him. Because I remember the first time I met Vince McMahon that you guys know, I was probably 8 years old, and my dad did it as a favor to Vince Sr. to bring him down so he could introduce some matches on RTV. That's how I met Vince, the guy I work for. He was like, hey, Bill, would you do me a favor? Bill, sure. You know, my dad was talking about the other day, Vince would go, hey, I heard you got some hot guys. Can I have them for a month? My dad would go, okay, what do I get? Well, you can keep Andre for another week. Well, my dad was like, okay, well, that's another week of sellouts. So sure, keep those guys for a month. You know, he said that back then, you worked with people. And Vince's dad would sit there and say, you're the easiest promoter to work with, Bill. And Vince's dad would say my dad was the most brilliant promoter. But my dad goes, I wasn't easy. I understood business. Like when they asked him questions the other day, my dad was the first and only guy really to jump out of the NWA. And my dad was talking about the fact that when he jumped out of the NWA, the organization, he was doing it strategically for the NWA so that everyone wasn't in the same organization. And then he goes into the gotchas, and those people finally got it, and it made my dad supposedly a genius. Well, no, he was just a genius. He understood business, I guess, so he did it. But, just going through some of the conversations and the talks and how things happened are just baffling. I mean, even the desegregation of seats in New Orleans, way back when my dad got there, if you're black, you could not sit anywhere but general admission. And then my dad's the guy that had the first black champion. And then we came to WCW, Ron Simmons was the next first black champion. Not because of anything else. My dad understood, he understands race, religion. His best friend was Ernie Ladd. And as a matter of fact, the interview he did the other day goes, Ernie Ladd was my best friend. And I'm glad I had him. But he was harder on athletes than I was. And the guy goes, what do you mean? He goes, he knew it was such an honor for these black athletes to have an open opportunity in Mid-South. He, as a coach and mentor, was tougher on them than my dad could be. My dad was the toughest SOB in the world, so I don't know what he was talking about. But that friendship and all that was so freaking amazing, man. I remember when we'd walk in New Orleans after matches, sometimes we'd have to have security around us because several times someone tried to abduct my brother or my sister on Bourbon Street, knowing that we were Cowboy Bill Watts' kids. So they would try to like grab us or do some stuff. And my dad would do it. And my dad, if you're so worried about it, because I'm not worried about it. I'm worried about the people who come to abduct you, because I got enough people around us, they're going to die. I'm like, okay, well, that's serious. Let's do that. And he's like, here's the deal, man. Who makes us? I'll go, the people. He goes, and I'm not going to walk on their streets because some idiots. I'm not scared of no one. I just don't have enough fists to take care of it. So I'll just hire some people around us. But I'm not going to not be able to walk on the streets with the people that make us. And man, I remember there's Bourbon Street's mad with bars and stuff. And we're talking about me and my sisters and brothers being 2, 4, 6, 8, whatever it was. And I don't know, we went through this phase where I loved egg rolls. And there's these places called Takey Outy, and almost every block there would be a Takey Outy. And it was just, you could get whatever Chinese food you want, but you could get this like 7 or 8 inch egg roll that was incredible. And my dad, and then they had these Coke paper containers that were 32-ounce beers. And so my dad's like, every block we go, I'm getting you an egg roll and I'm getting a beer. And so we would do that. And sometimes if the security wasn't watching, then someone would try to nab one of us occasionally once blue moon. And, but my dad was like, you've got to show your face and not be feared of any threats, and a lot of people don't know this. I mean, towards, even at 13, 14, we had 24-hour security. We had bomb threats. One guy got through most of our security and into the house. My dad got that. And instead of killing that guy, because our maid was there, she said, I can't watch you kill him. I had a gun on him. My dad had a gun on him. And that guy went to prison. Several times we were shot at going to school. Several times odd people trying to check us out of school. So people go, wow, no, there's like a whole life story of it. And the crazy thing about it is we never took it as a different day. I mean, I remember my little brother, because at our house, we had these big phones. We had like 7 lines. So one was a house line. Every kid, there's 4 kids, had a line, and there's some other lines. And I remember I was probably about 12. So Michael was probably about 10 and a half. And I hear him going, really, mother, you sound like a pussy, a P word. What the fuck? If you really want to threaten us, show the up. And then the guy hangs up, and Michael hangs up and just starts laughing. I go, what's that? And he goes, oh, another one of those guys calling saying they're gonna kill us, and they're gonna bomb our house and shit. I'm like looking at my brother going, so you just decided to piss him off? He's like, no, it just pisses me off. Why do people want to hide? let's shoot this shit out. I'm like, and so, but we had like in our house, a lot of people don't know, like my sister, my baby, beautiful little sister, she had a Tommy gun. So if our house, we had racquetball courts and stuff like that, and we're in the country. So if anything tripped, about 5 acres of land would have floodlights on it. And my sister had a place under the grand piano where she was at. My dad had a place. Micah had a place. My brother had a place. I jetted out the back to dust people off through the creek to kill people. So, FBI, CIA, we had all kinds of stuff of training, only because my dad was out there doing what he loved, and he would take over these territories sometimes, and people didn't say, hey, why'd you take over the territory? They'd come out to kill us instead, which we never had time to understand. My dad's like, this is the way it is. That's what's happening. And one time it freaked me out is the house goes off. I'm jetting out, sister's hitting, everyone's hitting their spots. And I trail everything. And so the cops, because we had a cop that stayed 24 hours or, in an area, we sweep the place. And we come back, and it was just a lucky shot, from the road, which is about 300 feet from our house. A guy had a sniper and sniped it. Well, we had these glass doors, these mahogany or whatever oak doors that had these small glass panes. And my mom was out of town. My dad was in town, and my baby sister, which probably at the time's like 5 or 6, stayed with my dad that night, and the shot went through the door, triggered the alarm, and this idiot doesn't know, and it actually went through the sheetrock and lodged in the head of the bed, in which my dad bought the bed from Gone with the Wind movie, lodged into the back of it. Well, after an hour or so, here's the cops, and I remember I'm sitting there with the couch, and they said, give me your gun. I go, no, fuck you. And then my dad's like, no, give him the gun. I go, no. Well, it wasn't because I was trying to be disrespectful. I could not open the grip on my handle. I was so petrified that because that's the way we were raised, that someone's trying to kill me. I wasn't going to let you take my gun away in case someone came in. And we had cops everywhere at the house, and I just didn't trust anyone, right? And then they looked at it, and that night, because they did the thing, and they looked at how it came through, and they're like, Bill, they pulled the bed, and the slug was in the headboard where exactly my dad and sister were at. So, I mean, had it made through the headboard, it might have clipped one of them. I don't know. But so when you talk about wrestling and the love of wrestling and things that happened, we lived it, breathed it, and it was our lives. And the funny thing about it is, so many kids at school would say, yes, we knew your dad was famous, but we didn't know any different. You guys didn't act famous. Like when I went to my high school, I left the keys in my car. And so lunchtime would come, and I lived in a country, I mean, it was a lot of kids at school, but very country. I'd go out to see if my car was there, because anyone would just jump in any car and take it to lunch. So I can't tell you how many times I'd go to lunch and someone would be driving my Trans Am, and hey guys, like, I love your car. I'm like, I love you too, And it was that open, right? Country, right? And so we even had a gas pump hidden at our house, so that if kids were over or people were over or any of our cars needed gas, we wouldn't have to go to the gas station 5 miles in town. And people were like, God, when we come over, my dad will go fill everyone's cars up. And so we were just real people. Everyone knew my dad as Cowboy or Bill, and my dad had nicknames for everyone, and kids came over all the time. And we had a junior Olympic swimming pool, which my mom designed in the shape of a cowboy hat with a huge kiddie pool and all that. But people when they came over, we didn't put on our pants on any different. Put it that way, right? And but at the same time, I had all this incredible stuff happen to me. We had this this beautiful house and racquetball courts and this huge, we called it a sandbox, but it was probably half the size of a football field, because my dad wanted sand so he could train us through the ropes and things for football and basketball. He was brutal. My dad was brutal. I tell people he was the greatest promoter, greatest wrestler. Wasn't always the greatest father. but not like that. I mean, like he was just tough, right? And I loved every second of it. But we also had like a 3,000 square foot gym where my dad built for him to work out across from the pool. And I remember him waking me up one morning, about 3 a.m. He goes, "Get up!" And I had about 4 or 5 friends over, and we jump up. We're like, "Yes, yes, sir, yes, sir." He goes, "I got the next stud," because my dad would recruit people. And I'm like, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "Get your ass over here on the pinball machine. Put your arm up." And I'm like, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Arm wrestle him. He's a Florida state champion." I go, "Yes, sir." And I put my arm up. And, this guy I thought he broke the pinball machine. I swear to God, I need Tommy John surgery on my elbow. I mean, he ripped my freaking elbow out. And I was literally, I had tears in my eyes because he just punished me. And everyone, they were drunk and having a good time. And I'm like, "Sir, what's your name?" And he goes, "My name's Paul Orndorff. Glad to meet you." I mean, are you following me? Like when the first time I met JYD, my dad's like, "Son, I got to introduce you to the greatest," because we saw a videotape. My dad, because he would get all of us kids together, my mom and everyone, and he'd take videotapes of tryouts because I guess my sister, there's 3 brothers of different age, my mom. So that was his audience to kind of see how we thought about athletes. And I remember the first time he put it in, he goes, "Check out this athlete." And we saw him pigeon-toed, different looking, almost like Potbelly, but like a power lifter. And we watched him work out, and we're like, "That guy has got charisma out of his ears." He goes, "I'm cursed." I'm like, "What, Dad?" He goes, "Well, think about it. This guy is awesome." And he goes, "Guess what his name is?" Well, we're sitting there thinking, whatever. He goes, "Sylvester Ritter." I go, "That guy's name is Sylvester Ritter?" And we were like busting ass laughing. And which became Junkyard Dog, which gave me my nickname. And me, JYD, Butch Reed, Van Hammer were on a show in Columbia, South Carolina. And then JYD looked at me and he's like, "Slim, I never gave you nothing." I go, "Sir, you gave my family everything." And he's like, "I want to give you something." He gave me his boots. He goes, "I want you to have my boots. I brought 2 pairs of boots because this means a lot to me. We're not on the road all the time anymore because, you're traveling, I'm traveling." He goes, "Let's get together when I get back in town." I said, "Okay." Now, he drove with me from Atlanta. All those guys drove with me in Atlanta. Well, I dropped him off because he was going to his daughter's graduation in Louisiana. And I dropped him off and go, "Dog, is that the Mercedes my dad gave you as a bonus in like 87? He goes, "That's Betsy." I go, "You still have Betsy?" And, it was a 450 SEL Mercedes. He goes, 400,000 miles and never give me a problem. That night I dropped him off. He drove to his daughter's graduation. I was supposed to be with him the next night. He fell asleep and died driving off the road that night, coming back in that Mercedes. So, you guys haven't been able to talk much. I'm telling you. So that's how crazy my life is, but that's how blessed my life is.
We don't need to talk. This is fucking great, man. You're doing, honestly, Erik, like, this is cool. We love it when we have guests like yourself because, we're just a couple of fucking jabronis who just love wrestling, and like the fact that we can just listen and take this stuff in. And like you say, this is like a digital history document, these interviews with people like yourself about, stuff that your dad's done, people that this stuff is literally, it needs to be preserved. And the fact that we can just sit back and listen is fucking incredible, man. We just love it.
Again, I mean, the sad thing is I could do these every day and I can't, and sometimes, I'll decide, hey, I'll take on 3 or 4 or 5 this week or this month or whatever. And I wish that all I could do every day is do this. I really do. Vince Russo got a hold of me yesterday. He's been trying to get a hold of me, and I love Vince. It was mine and his collaboration that gave me my run in TNA, which was actually my favorite time of pro wrestling. And I guess he does a podcast network where he's got like 18, 20 talent. And he's like, 6'6" and dreamy. And I said, "Yeah, Vince." He said, "Bro, why haven't you done a podcast?" I said, "Bro, why haven't you called me?" He goes, well, I had my people reach out. I said, what did my people tell you? Well, bro, they said that I could go F myself because if I can't pick up the phone, then you don't want to talk to me. I said, yeah. And we were laughing. I said, bro, you know I was just giving you shit. He goes, I know, I'm just so busy. I go, well, then you're not that interested. He goes, Erik, I've always loved you, interested, blah, blah. So we talked yesterday. So I'm going to jump on his show Friday. And now he wants me to do a show on his network, per se, and do things. And I can hardly wait just to relive some of the stories, because I start telling him, he's like, bro, I didn't even remember that. And I'm like, yeah. So, he said, you're so different, Erik, that I think will do very well. I said, I don't know. But I also have different ideas, right? Because I've always thought different, And one thing that I'm going to tell him Friday is I think that I want to recontact some podcasters and in other places, and I want to maybe interview other podcasters in other countries, like maybe you guys. There was a very talented guy. There was a very talented kid that I'm gonna have to find out in Australia, and he did this interview on me, and he said, "Would you give me 2 days?" I swear to God, we did 4 hours a night for 2 days, and I've never had someone so thoroughly walk me through my career. It was the craziest shit ever. And so like my dad said the other day to the person that was doing the podcast about Mid-South, he goes, you've done such a thorough job. I'm doing this for my son, but I really enjoyed it, which meant the world to me. And, but not everybody, but there's people, there's some people that are just wannabes or whatever, but there's literally people that love, eat it, breathe it. And it's an honor. Well, I was thinking the other day about it. I'm like, man, something I'm going to bring up to Vince Friday is, there's been probably 8-10 podcasters that have left a mark in my brain, minus the people I want on. I would like to reverse podcasts with people and multi-produce shows. Because what if people in America caught on to your show because you were on my show, or vice versa? Who cares if your love is pro wrestling?
Yeah,
absolutely right. And I can already see your mind is working. It seems like it's always ticking, and that's incredible.
Yeah. So if you guys have any hard hitting questions, man, let's rock them. Let's do this.
Well, it would be stupid of us to have you on. And like you said, with the other guys who are kind of walking you through your career.
Okay.
This is what we kind of we try and do on our show. We try and lead you guys to kind of talk about what you want to talk about, because we don't really. There are a lot of podcasters, like we'll be fucking 100% honest all the time. There are a lot of podcasters who will literally like look for kind of the controversial shit,
Right,
they're kind of
right.
like they're always looking to dig up some kind of, oh, so and so said this or
Yeah.
what do you think of such and such and such and such, and
Yeah.
excuse me, maybe we will mention Lex Luger, or maybe we won't, but
Right.
It's like it's one of those things where we kind of let you guys do the talking. So
that's good.
No,
that's good as well. And I've got so many stories I can keep on going. But feel free, the Lex or the Jarretts or the whatever, it's good what you're doing, because a lot of times I'll do podcasts. I'm like, is there not another question? But I have to keep myself humble, because not everyone has the same audience, not even close.
Mm-hmm.
So I might get tired. I thought about it. DDP is one of my best friends. Matter of fact, this is DDPY.
Yeah, that's right.
And we do a lot. I've got a merchant processing company that does credit cards for companies, and he's one of my clients. But he's also one of my best friends, if not best friend, right? And we were talking about it, and I'm like, Didi, isn't it crazy that we've got to stay humble? And he's like, no, it's not great. That's what we're supposed to do. And I go, I know, but think about it. Sometimes, do you hear a podcast and ask the same question? He's like, yeah. And he goes, but I'm gonna answer. I said, I am too. I go, why? He goes, because it might be new to the person less. And I said, that's it. Whereas I know a lot of guys go, I don't want to do this podcast because they ask the same questions. I'm like, you're not getting it, right? Because, you know, the one thing I've never done, I've never said, hey, prove how big your audience is, right? Because I might have a person that they just started, or I might have a person that is huge, right? I mean, like when DDP goes on Joe Rogan, we know it's on one of the top 10 podcasts in the world, right? We don't ask to qualify, but me and Didi and the people that that I'm close to, I don't get tired of the questions because I don't know who your audience is. And I wouldn't want to disrespect you and your audience by not answering it. So, you know, like Lex Luger's and Jarrett's, I'm good with that too. You said you're a huge TNA fan. If you want to know something about TNA or WCW, I'm good there too. If you want to let me ramble, I've got it's early for Christmas, but I've got my Christmas wine glass, which I'm not big into wine, but I ran out of my vodka. So I thought I'd have some wine on your show. Oh, that's Santa's. And so I feel very feminine about this. I think I got I think I've got like a yeast infection right now. And so, but I'm having some wine on your show.
All good. You know, we are happy to let you talk about stuff, but I mean, we can start at the beginning.
Okay.
You know, so obviously it'd be a stupid question to ask why or how or when did you get into the wrestling business? You're fucking born into it. So,
but okay. So let me say this without going too deep. Yes and no. Okay.
Right.
So here's my mom. Comes from a successful family in Estonia, but she was 3 or 4 years old when they had to escape. So she wasn't but 11 or 12 when she made it to or 10 or whatever when she made it to America. So when you are bartering to get here, you have nothing. You have nothing. So she went from wealthy to poor. Thank God. I mean, she landed in Oklahoma because a church decided to sponsor the whole family. But still, you come to Oklahoma. My mom spoke 11 languages, but redneck was not one of them. Right? So it's like, who's this hot chick that speaks all these languages? So she then came over, and because they immediately had to make money, she was cleaning houses and going to school and doing whatever she can. Then she became a model, and there was a thing called American Bandstand. She's Miss American Bandstand. She's this. So without getting too crazy, that's how my mom and dad reconnected. My dad went to the University of Oklahoma. Then he went to the Houston Texan team. The coach called him fat because back then, if you're over 220 as a lineman, my dad was 300. You're fat, even if you weren't. So he knocked that guy out. So then they traded him to Minnesota Vikings. Well, Minnesota Vikings, in Minnesota, there was a guy that heard about this athlete that was a great amateur wrestler and a great football player. And that guy's name was Vern Gagne. So Vern Gagne approached my dad at the Minnesota Vikings and says, "Hey, kid, I want to talk to you." He's like, "Sure." Well, people think the NFL has always been the NFL. It hasn't. I don't remember my dad's contract was like, I don't know, $20,000-$30,000. But that's back in the Ice Age, right? But still, it was only 20. So most of your pro football players went back and were, grocery store attendants or worked doing oil changes and shit. No one was making so much money that they just could play football. So my dad decided to pick up pro wrestling in Minnesota, and then the Minnesota Vikings found out, and they pulled him in before the season, said, "Hey, we got to talk to you." He's like, "Okay." And they go, "We don't want you to pro wrestle and play pro football." He goes, "Well, I made more money in 3 months pro wrestling than you pay me a year, so go fuck yourself." And that's how my dad started pro wrestling. But that's also why there's a lot of pro football players that ended up pro wrestling, because the connection with my dad, Ernie the Cat Ladd, and a lot of those people, my dad had met pro football and brought those people because my dad cared more about being an athlete. All right. So if you bring that together, my dad left his junior year before his senior year, he left Oklahoma to go pro. So my dad didn't have a degree. My mom didn't have a degree. So now fast forward to the Von Eriks that were great friends of ours, the Dusty Rhodes, the Grahams, the Gagnes, and guess what? None of those people had college degrees. So my mom was like, "Hey, listen, I believe we're going to do good in wrestling, but what legacy are we going to build? Let's say we don't do good pro wrestling, and then everyone has to go find work. A resume that you pro wrestle is going to get you a job nowhere. I remember, I will not let my kids even in the ring if they don't have a degree. So that's the difference. Did I set up rings? Yes. Did I sell merchandise? Yes. Did I do the lights on TV? Yes. Did I do music? Yes. Did I do security? Yes. Did I shuttle guys between Oklahoma City and Tulsa when we ran double shots on Sunday? Yes. 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 I did everything from the bottom to the freaking top. Yes. But when I decided to pro wrestle, I'd never been in a wrestling ring. Never. I'd never been, not even in a ring. It was unallowed. And what most people don't know is I was 9 hours away from my master's Juris Doctorate in college. I decided not to go pro football, which I was not going to be a top round guy. I was going to be a lower round guy, but I thought I could make it. And I decided to pro wrestle. But here's what happened was I called my dad. I said, "Hey, Dad, I got my first degree a year ago. Is there someone you know so I could just see what it's like to be in a ring?" That's how this all happened. My dad said, "Yes, Jody Hamilton in Atlanta would probably let you come work out." I worked out 23 days. And then Dusty Rhodes called me and said, "Hey, I know you're on your way back to Louisville, finish your classes. Would you wrestle in Franklin, Tennessee?" I said, "Sure, I would." I was freaked out, but I said, yes. I wrestled there. Grizzly Smith said, "Hey, call Dusty. He wants to talk to you." Dusty said, "How'd you like it?" I go, "I absolutely loved it." And there's stories behind stories there that are just hilarious. So piss yourself because the crazy shit that happened there. And so he goes, "Would you do Chattanooga?" I said, "Yeah, I'll do Chattanooga." Then the next night he goes, "Hey, do you want to do Nashville, which is on your way to Louisville?" I said, "Yes, sir." I did that. After that, and Grizzly every night would say, "Hey, call Dusty." So I thought Dusty was going to go, "Hey, man, get a hold of me when you get back out of graduate school." And Dream goes, "What was it like?" I go, "What do you mean, Dream?" He goes, "What was it like to be in the ring?" I go, "Sir, I have played football on ESPN. I've been the starting quarterback in front of 110,000 people at Ohio State on ESPN. I played Syracuse in the Coca-Cola Classic in Tokyo Dome. I mean, literally in college, played football in Tokyo against Syracuse, right?" I said, "I have been on the largest sets. I've never felt shit like this. I just haven't. I haven't. You're so close to the fans. You're so raw. You're there." I said, "I've never felt anything like it." He goes, "You are screwed." I go, "Sir?" He goes, "You're screwed." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "That's exactly what I felt the first time I wrestled." I said, "Sir?" He said, "Have your ass back in Atlanta tomorrow. You don't need your degree." I said, "Sir, I'm going to get my degree." He goes, "No, the fuck you're not." I go, "Sir?" He goes, "I got a contract. Your fourth match ever after 23 days of training is going to be on Saturday Night Live, WCW." And so I had to remember that because, I'd see myself wrestle sometimes. I'm like, God, I got a lot to learn. And then it hit me, shit, my 27th time in the ring, 28th time in the ring was on national TV. And then I look back at those matches and go, no, that kid was talented. He had a lot to learn, but that kid was talented. Because how many people have 28 days in a row to work out and they're on national TV? Now, some people go, well, because your dad. No, I don't give a shit who my dad was. No, I don't. No one has their 28th day. I had potential. But by potential, I have to say, though, what probably helped me is seeing so much wrestling. But man, my brain was trying to connect it because calling moves and knowing every move and speaking Carney and all the different things you're trying to learn. I knew what I wanted to do, but shit, it took a second, right? And so, but when you're on TV or even in a live match, you may know what you want, but how do you speak that? And how do you say? So I put a lot of pressure on myself. It was very, very, very tough. But realistically, people would think, okay, this is what happens. This is what happened. No, this is not what happens. Because what would have happened is my dad would have started me refereeing about 15 or 16, like everyone else did, and I would have done it in the summers. and I would have done this bullshit. And then my dad would have let me have a match or two my senior year in high school. And then if I wanted to play college ball, he still would have booked me on the summers when I wasn't playing college ball, so that he built a legacy so that as soon as I came out, I was already a stud. That didn't happen in my family. So it's completely different upbringing. And I'm thankful for it. You know, I'm thankful for it.
Would you say, I mean, I watched another match, a WCW match. It was you versus Michael P.S. Hayes. And it was on WCW. And Jake the Snake Roberts was the commentator on that too. And he said something quite interesting. Like he said, you know, that you might have a tough time. And this is like, you know, on TV, he said you might have a tough time because of who your dad is. So it might not have actually maybe worked in your favor, the fact that your dad was Cowboy Bill Watts. Maybe, you know, in a way it was fucking tougher for you because, you know, he said something like the sins of the father or something like that.
No. Jake's so deep, right?
Yeah.
So let's put that in perspective, right? It gives me chill bumps you said that because I didn't know that. Okay, so here's the issue. He's exactly right. The heat and the problems I had in the dressing room were amazing. To the point where all the jokes and shit went too far. I even one time, and Sting lost his shit. One night, probably a year in, I go to put my boots on, and I cut my right foot because someone had crushed glass and put them in boots. I'm not even gonna start telling you about the ribs that were pulled on me. The difference was when back in the day, you were a rookie for 3 years. So I said, yes or no, sir, yes or no, sir. So that's when kind of there's some rumors about me and Rick Rude having an altercation. Well, here's the issue. I was a out of the sorts amateur wrestler forever. So I could handle myself, but I was a quarterback. So people were like, oh, you know, I don't know if he's tough. So when the Rude thing happened and I dusted his ass, and no disrespect, because it actually helped me huge, because there's so many people that wanted to see my ass get kicked. And when it didn't happen by one of the toughest guys in the locker room, people didn't have anything to say. And then Rude went out of his way to start like mentoring me. Now, Rude for a long time was the person that was throwing shit on me, but everyone was. The difference was this. Those small people, they might be big in pro wrestling, so I'm not going to name any names. Sure. But those small-minded people that never went to college, don't have a degree, for bodybuilding, whatever they're doing to get into pro wrestling, and they want to judge me. I was like laughing. I'm thinking, what did you guys do to get in pro wrestling? Work out? Know somebody? Have a different look? You know, so what did you do? You didn't graduate with honors out of high school. You weren't a 3-sport letterman. You didn't kick ass in football. You didn't do shit. So there's a different way to look at it. There was a different way to look at it, right? I had my way. They had theirs. So these little people, as famous as they are, I was like, they don't get it. And they don't bother me. But it was brutal. There's guys in my car going, Erik, how do you take it? I go, because I don't listen to it. Of course I heard it.
Of course. But
I wasn't going to listen to it. You know, so it was absolutely awful. And I felt horrible for the fans, because sometimes the smart marks got involved or the sheets got involved, and they would put sheets down or they'd make signs of me because they wanted to write it in the sheet. So the sheets, the Meltzers and the people wanted to make money off of it. I got you. You small people. Write your shit. But the deal was, it wasn't going to take me down. And I think Jake, because I'll tell you a crazy story. So here's Jake Roberts. I don't know how old I was. And so I was at a lot of the matches when I could be. Well, Jake took to me. I don't know why. And a lot of guys did. Sting and a lot of guys. Rick Steiner, a lot of guys did. Terry Taylor, a lot of guys did. And Jake I remember it was in Tulsa. And he basically told me that he's too tall, too skinny, and not an athlete to be in the business. And then if his dad wasn't Grizzly Smith, he wouldn't have a shot at Mid-South. I don't know if that's true. Okay. But it sounds right. So when we come to Tulsa every 2 weeks, we talk. And so one day, I can't remember how long this was. He goes, watch this. I've got this move. I'm going to put a guy's head over here. And I'm going to drop down. And I'm going to call it a DDT. Because DDT is like a poison that can kill you. I'm like, okay. So I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. And sure shit, he does it. And of course, no one knew what he did. I mean, it almost looked like to be honest with you, it almost looked like a missed spot. You know, you just grab a guy's head and you hit, and all, because they're used to like power slams and brain busters, and you know they were. Yeah. And the fans kind of go, Jake didn't care. So he comes back. He goes, see you in 2 weeks. Now think about this, right? So now you do a TV and then 2 weeks. So it's not like there's TV every week. You do that. So he comes back. He goes, this is going to be a big move. I'm going to start doing this. Now I go, what is that? And he goes, that's a D, that's a D, and this is a T. I'm like, what? He goes, I'm going to signal my move. Now I'm also thinking that my dad was not big into people knowing a finish is going to happen. Not so I was like, ooh, this might be an issue. Well, the people still didn't know. This was the second time they saw it. Boom, boom, he does it. Now I'm watching. Now think about this. I'm 12, 13 years old. Jay comes back. What'd you think? I go, it's interesting. Like, I liked it. You know, I don't know what to say. So then it comes back another 2 weeks. And he goes, boom, boom, boom. And this happened for like 3 months. Within about 3 months, he's doing this, and the people are going ape shit because they know what's going to happen. I'm going, this guy's a genius. So he came up to me, goes, I'm going to lose the match tonight. I go, okay. He goes, I'm going to signal DDT. I'm going to have the guy reverse it on me and beat me. Which didn't mean he was going to do that. My dad probably said, you're losing, and then, you know, whatever. But whatever. And I don't give a shit how it happened. And I'm like, ooh, I don't know if that's going to be good. You know, and we'll see. Some boom, boom, boom. Fans go crazy. Bam, reverse, boom. The people lost their crackers. They didn't know what to say. I'm like, this guy is a mental genius. And so here I am, and it was almost like he treated me like I was his best friend. Now, maybe he didn't have anyone to talk to. Maybe he talked to everyone. I don't know who the hell, right? So Jake and I have always had a decent relationship. The last 5 years I've been around Jake, it's not been good because I don't know what happened, but he's like ultra mad at my father for, you know, I don't know what the hell he's mad about. So he talks shit, which has put me in a situation occasionally when I go, okay, I may knock the guy out, but I'm gonna blow it off. Out of respect, but man, don't disrespect my father, but whatever, you know, because he was your boss, so you're not disrespecting my father, you're disrespecting your father, you know. So I don't know exactly what happened there, but watching how genius he was. And so I think that what you're talking about is he is so intellectual. He knew the shit I was going to go through, and he said it on live TV. And I got to be honest with you, I never knew he said it, but yeah. But you know what? He was foreshadowing, and his foreshadowing was dead on. And it means a lot to me that you told me this, because I didn't know. And it gives me more respect for him. Well, not more respect. I only get upset when he's like going out of his way. You know, like even Dallas 2 years ago, Jake was saying something, and Dallas goes, shut up. He goes, do you not get the position you're putting him in? Erik would bury you 10 feet deep to beat you to death. So Erik Erik's a bigger guy than you, because in 2 seconds he'll kill you. So he lets you do it, but I can tell it's getting at his nerves. And Dallas was right, but I wouldn't have said anything. But Dallas was right. I'm like, thank God Dallas said something, because you need to shut the fuck up. Mm-hmm. And this is like 3 months after Jake had done, or Dallas did the resurrection of Jake, and it was clean, and he was still saying it, you know. And Dallas goes shit. And so I haven't been around him as much, but Jake is always, minus saying something about my dad, Jake has always been kind to me. He's been nice to me. He's been loving to me. When it came to WCW, he pulled a rib on me, but it was actually a really good rib, for the boys. I had this Toomey luggage. In America, Toomey luggage is, very good luggage, right? Bulletproof material, zippers that will last. And I had this thing called a body bag. And so it was a big bag that you could put like 10 days of clothes in and all this other stuff. I don't even know if they'd let it on an airplane now. And Jake had come from WWF at the time. And he was main event. And they actually had me and Jake Roberts main event. So, of course, I see him. And I haven't seen him forever. And he hugs me, takes me into the shower area where he has the snake. And it was a brand new snake. And so a lot of times when Jake had a new snake, the first thing he would do is he'd throw it in the shower, throw cold water on it, and kick it and hit it until it bit him. And then he would have like a butter knife and pull the fucking mouth off of him. And he said, until they bite you, they won't respect you. And you got to get them off your, I'm like, that's the craziest shit I've ever seen. So, yeah, so here's this, it was like it was almost like an albino yellow white python they got him. And it was big as hell. I'm like, that's the craziest shit I've ever seen. So he said, hey kid, let's go in here. They want me just to drown you. I'm one of the, I'm coming from WWE. He goes, but no way. Let's go out there and have a good match. I'm like, whatever you want, drown me, not drown me. Because my respect is I'm supposed to do whatever the company wants. So we go out there and have a phenomenal match. And of course, Jake, DETs me. And then here's the snake, and they pull the snake, and then he puts it in the bag, and he walks it back. So I'm laying in the ring for, 10 minutes, it seems like, right? To get the fuck out and go. So when I come back out, as soon as I get in the locker room, all the guys are like clapping, and Jake hugs me. And Jake goes, man, I haven't seen you forever, but, how long you been doing this? I go, about a year. And he goes, bullshit. I go, Jake, I've been doing it. He goes, you've got a future. And I'm like, okay. So I'm not thinking Jake, because Jake is so funny and he pulls ribs and he's a funny fucker. So I go and so here's the body bag. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my shit off. I'm going to grab my flip-flops. I'm going to grab my towel. I'm going to go to the shower. And so I pull my shit off. And I reach in to get my shit. Well, my bag was just my bag. I go in there and I feel the biggest, coldest, like it was the fucking python was in my bag. He'd stuffed the python in my bag. And thank God the python must have been there for a little bit. And my bag was so dark, it was asleep. When I say I think I pissed myself, I jumped so high. I'm like, what? And Jake and all the people popped so hard. He's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? He didn't bite you. I'm like, shit. No. He's like, no. So the snake comes out of my bag. So to me, though, that was Jake being so intellectual that he probably already knew the heat I already had for who my father was. So then he was going to play a rib on me, but make sure everything went okay. That's how smart he was. And all the guys popped. The guys popped that liked me, but the guys that hated me popped even harder. And I wasn't processing it all because I was just like, here we go again. And I got dressed and all that later on. But then it was probably about a week later, and I came and hugged him as hard as I could. I go, thank you so much. He goes, what? For the match? I go, no. For the rib and everything else you do. And he goes, I can't imagine how tough it's on you. He goes, my dad was Grizzly Smith. Your dad's Kevin Watson. He's the president of WCW. And he goes, fuck everybody. I go, I understand. So what a crazy thing, but that he's a forward thinker. He really is a forward thinker.
He did put you over in the commentary, and he was, at that time in that match, you were the baby face. Obviously, Michael P.S. Hayes was healing it up as usual. Jake was like the heel commentator, but he was still putting you over. He was saying, this kid's got a future, but he's going to have to carry the sins of the father and all this kind of stuff. It was, you should watch it, man. It's like, the commentary was fucking good. And the match was good too.
If you find that, please send me the link to that. You got my number. Send me the link. Because you're exactly right. I mean, but like what Jake says is behind the scenes. He's still the ultimate professional and promoter, right? So he understands. He even had the book for a while, so he understands. So everything he said was foreshadowing. Everything he said was 100% on. And so as much as the comments, and I'm telling you something private that doesn't really matter, I mean, it doesn't matter. I hated that, my dad, I think, is the one that gave him his biggest shot, and whatever happened to him, and that I don't even know if my dad knows if they're on the outs or not on the outs, because he could give a shit less anyway. But to me, I know how much my dad thought about Jake and so many athletes. However, my dad's a tough guy. And so sometimes he teaches you to love, and sometimes he teaches you through beating your ass, period. So, but he always had a spot. He always had a way he was training you and teaching you. So you're a younger person, you might not get it, and you could maybe even get mad about it. But he knew how to pull the best out of people.
We could sit and talk about, your dad and how he trained so many people, put so many people over in Mid-South and that. But I mean, I want to sort of stick to your career, and like I'm a huge WCW fan. I can sit and watch that early 90s WCW stuff until, probably my wife tells me off and tells me to go to sleep. But
this is quickly we're quickly becoming a WCW podcast. I mean, we joke about it all the time, but it seems like all our guests that we have on seem to be from WCW. I mean, we've had Alex Wright on, Sonny Ono, Kiwi, yourself. We've had quite a few WCW guys on, and I mean, we literally we're huge WCW marks too, and that early 90s when your dad was there, afterwards coming through, I mean, the NWO, there probably wasn't anyone at that time in the early 90s that you didn't wrestle who wasn't just a superstar.
Right.
It was just, the list of names is incredible. I mean, even the Freebirds, Michael P.S. Hayes, Arn Anderson, and it was the whole storyline of was it Paulie Dangerously that had like a bounty on your head or something?
I think Paulie and two of the guys I probably started out with. Well, first of all, Bobby Eaton. They put me early with him, which was unbelievable. But three guys that broke in the business basically together was the fact that Kevin Nash and Dallas Page, they were a tag team, right? And so a lot of times I'd be with Dustin or whoever, but a lot of times I was wrestling. If I did tags, there was two tags I did. I was either tagging against DDP and Kevin Nash, or I was tagging against the Hollywood Blondes, which was Stone Cold Steve Austin and Brian Pillman. And then they mixed in Bobby Eaton, and then they did an Arn Anderson, and so I was just with the best of the best of the best of the best. And now Dallas wasn't that good at that time, but he became very good, and Kevin wasn't that good at the time, but he became very good. So you had future Hall of Famers. So we're all learning at the same pace with Hall of Famers, but then I had, they would tag me occasionally. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat would be with me occasionally. Sometimes it'd be against Shane Douglas. So
with Sasaki as well, weren't you, for a couple of times?
Well, because my dad wanted me to do the SDF. So Chono and Sasaki, they came over from Japan, and what a lot of people don't know, there's Hiro Matsuda and those guys, and a lot of these people didn't know that we were doing training sessions before I even wrestled. So I'd be in that ring 2-3 hours, and some of the guys were like, oh, what's going on? But I've learned a lot from those guys. A lot of people don't know Harley Race. I'd say, hey, Harley, when we're on the road, can we go? And Vader hated it because Vader had to go everywhere Harley went. So Harley's like, hey, I don't want people knowing I'm training you, so you don't get heat. So I'm going to find out from the ring crews what time they're going to be up. So if a ring was up at 10 or 11 in Kansas City or whatever, then we would meet at 10 or 11 after the ring was up, and we train for 2 hours and go back. And Vader would cuss me. He's like, "You fucking idiot. I was out drunk. Now I got to be up with you because you suck." And I'm like, "Okay, Vader, go, whatever." But I learned early. I brought my camera everywhere. I videotaped everything because that's the only way. And in college sports, high school sports, my dad taught me that since elementary, right? Tape everything because it's called the eye in the sky never lies. You may think you're looking good, but realistically, look at the eye in the sky, which we call the camera, right?
Sure.
But even that didn't change. Even when I went to to catch wrestling with Otto Vance. As soon as I got over there, I saw some athletes that you wouldn't see in America. Franz Schumann, Jesus Christ, Franz Schumann, unbelievable. So many of those guys, and a lot of those guys, I actually came back to America and told about. Fit Finley. I'd never seen Fit Finley, but when I came back to WCW, I said, "You've got to get this guy named Fit Finley. Let me tell you this. I don't give a shit what anyone says. That's how Kane happened. That's exactly how Kane happened. I was in Germany, and I got the picture somewhere, and I did a crossbody off the top ropes like I do. I sent it. Jim Ross saw it and goes, "Was Sid Vicious over there?" I go, "No. Glenn Jacobs." I said, "This kid is from Texas. No one knows him. He can't do interviews very well, but man, he's in the gym every day. He loves wrestling and all this other stuff." He goes, "What?" And so that's how WWE started doing it. Now, Jerry King Lawler and so many people try to take credit for it. I don't give a shit who takes credit for it. I know who brought these people over, right? And then Steve Regal started saying that he's the one that brought the people over, but realistically, the Schumans and the Caseys and so many of these people actually came over because Vader got hurt. He couldn't go over there. I had a big show going on with Vern Gagne, and Vader said, "Would you take my spot in Bremen, Germany?" Well, I wanted to go to Bremen, Germany forever because the city in which my mom's, when they got that ship, the city in which the ship started to sink was Bremen, Germany, and she was in concentration camps in Bremen, Germany. Wow. So I wanted to go back and visit anyway. So I'm like, hell yes. Well, the way they do things, it's like 30 or 40 days in the same town. And then they have a big show at the end. And they actually keep points. And people save their money year round to watch every match. And then if you win, you get a point. And if you lose, and they keep the points. And then that's how the tournament ends at the end. Well, Otto Vance knew I couldn't be at the last because I had to be for Vern Gagne. Bradshaw. He was in Germany, never heard of. Ice Train, Franz Schumann, Fit Finley. I could just go down. Well, immediately when I get there, I get and watch these guys, and so I pull some people away aside and go, "Would you work out with me during the day?" And I remember Franz Schumann was one of the first people who goes, "What?" I go, "Tony Sinclair. Oh my God, Tony Sinclair, one of the greatest ever." And I went to Tony and Schumann, and I go, "Would you guys train with me?" They go, "No one's ever asked us to do that." I go, "Okay, I don't give a shit." And so all of a sudden, everyone else got drunk every night, and I did occasionally too, and then they'd sleep in, they'd go work out. Well, these guys said, "Don't tell anyone." They had keys. I would go work out with two of the greatest athletes I've ever seen. They were teaching me mind-boggling shit, right? Because London and Germany and Japan, they've almost got that. It's almost like a little bit of America and AAA from Mexico. AAA is more entertainment. America's more this. England and Germany's more hook, chain wrestling. And so it was kind of a fascination of both. And Otto Vance quickly, when I remember when I first went over, Otto was like, "You understand we're gonna beat you every night." I go, I don't care. He goes, "Your father's done so much for me." I go, "Okay." Vern Gagne is okay. Yes, sir. And the only reason all of a sudden, I think it was the second night I was there, when I flew over, it was like Thanksgiving. I've never even seen the wrestling. I'm like, okay, well, I'll get there. The first night I'll watch the wrestling, kind of know what to do. No bullshit. First night I got there, like, "You're wrestling." I'm like, okay. I didn't know they had rounds. They have yellow cards, red cards, soccer shit. I'm like, what? So they're like, this is very serious. Things are very serious here. I'm like, okay. And so they go, what? I said, you got to line up. So they take you out to introduce the show, and that's how the interviews start. Well, I don't know what I'm doing. Swear to God, I'm lined up. I'm like, okay, this is pretty serious. They said, this is badass. This is pretty much like fighting. Okay. Swear to God, the music they brought you out to was Barnum and Bailey circus. Well, for me from America, I'm like, they're bringing us out to circus music? And they want to say, because, my brain's not functioning. And, oh God, I could tell you stories forever over there of the stupid shit I did because I didn't know what they were doing. Well, the second night I was there, or the third night I was there, was a Wednesday night, I believe, and it's ladies' night. I didn't know it was ladies' night. They have beer gardens in the facility. And so I'm there, and then all of a sudden, so they play this techno music. I just started dancing. I'm like, I'm out of my mind. I don't know what these people are doing over here. I'm just going to entertain. So I started dancing. The crowd goes absolutely insane. Well, it just so happens that 80% of the crowd was women. And I'm like, no. So we get back, I wrestled, and Audavance sends someone up, says, have him meet me in the office. And Otto goes, I was going to beat you every night. I'm okay, sir. He goes, can you do that thing you did in the ring? I go, yeah, it's called dancing. Of course I can. He's like, I love it. Dude, he put me on a roll. I was whooping everyone's ass. And all he wanted me to do is dance. And then afterwards, he said, you have to stay at the beer gardens because all the women and the people would be buying beers. And it was this crazy thing. So in between time, what people didn't know, I'm with Tony Sinclair and Franz Schumann and all these people, Finley and his wife took me to like an Oktoberfest thing in Germany. That's how close I got these guys. And they were like, we've never had an American come over and say, train me. So I'm training all day mornings with these guys for like 21 days. What people didn't understand, I'm in Germany. Most people are like, why did you go to Germany? I had 21 days, or let's say 19, of the greatest training I've ever had in my life by completely different athletes that don't train American. And that goes back to the old days, like my dad, when I was like 14, 15, there were still 23 territories. And that's what we've lost. How do you learn Shakespeare if you're playing in the same park every night? You've got to go different languages. Like Shakespeare, if you do a play, the true people that don't understand plays, you don't even have to understand the language to be blown away by the play. And that's what pro wrestling was before, right? So I go over there and I'm like, I would have paid Audavance money back. I didn't give a shit. It was a great, and my love for it was I put over as many people when I got back, and a lot of people came over, right? From it. So it was freaking absolutely amazing. Casey, oh my God, Lord Steve Casey, from England, and so I remember this. All right, so Lord Steve Casey were there, and he was there, and what a great wrestler. Well, he wouldn't let wrestlers hang around with him because he had special hookups at all the bar. Everyone loved him. And so one night he goes, let's go out. And it was almost like Hogan. I go, okay, good. Meet me at this bar. Here's the address. So I had to get a cab, get there. He goes, don't tell anyone I hung out with you. I don't hang out with wrestlers because they fuck things up. I'm like, okay, we won't. and then I'm like, when I was a kid, you came to Mid-South. He goes, yeah. Well, after I come back, they bring Regal, they bring some people. Well, Regal goes by Lord Steve Regal. I get a call by Steve Casey. He's like, I'm coming to America. I want to hang out. And I said, okay. And I said, stay at my house. He goes, okay, I stay at my house. Well, I thought he was going to stay like 3 days. About 10 days in, I had to kick him out. I'm like, bro, I know you want to go see more of America. Why are you in my house this long? And we were laughing. He was so pissed. He's like, how is Steve Regal calling himself Lord Steve Regal when I came and wrestled for your father as Lord Steve Casey? I'm like, because no one remembers that shit. but he literally had he had heat. Like he really disliked Regal. He goes, no, I could be the only Lord. I'm like, let me explain something to you, okay? I understand England and I love you. You think you're gonna be the last guy that wrestles in America called Lord something or Sir something? Get over yourself. So, but I'll tell you that he was an amazing worker. So I don't know if you guys know him over there, but man, what a great worker.
We
Yeah.
love that British style. Hey, Jordan.
We're big.
We
big
trained
World of Sport
ourselves for a bit.
So it's Fit Finley was someone that worked on the he definitely worked on the UK like circuit,
Yeah.
and that's how we, how we as youngsters first saw some Fit Finley stuff. It was before he made his way to WCW. We knew he was, he was on the UK sort of. He was making the town.
Yeah.
And
did you guys get to see Franz Schumann?
I never saw Franz Schumann.
Oh, bro, if you can ever even look up his name.
Maybe under a different name. He might have been under a different name, possibly.
Maybe, but at catch wrestling, catching that Germany and France and all that. If you can check him out, the few names that I mentioned, man, you gotta look him up, because I saw some matches with some of the guys I told you about that parallel Eddie Guerrero and Benoit. Swear to God. And Benoit, how me and Benoit became friends is because of Franz Schumann and some of these other guys talking to him about me, and they got me on the phone with a guy named Chris Benoit in Canada. Then they said, if you think you like us, he's awesome too. And then I came back and started talking about Chris Benoit. Then Chris Benoit came to WCW. But I literally started my relationship with Chris Benoit being in Germany with the guys I was telling you about, and us talking back to Chris Benoit. That's how crazy it was.
Didn't you have like a run with Benoit in WCW? Like he didn't stay. So.
No. Yeah. We had a small run, and it was a blessing. I mean, he, when he first came over, right? He was nobody, and no one knew who he was. But you could just tell. I mean, all his experience, and I used to laugh about it because I don't pay most. I gotta be honest with you guys. I don't pay much attention to the bullshit about who people think are tough and not tough, because it's so stupid. Most of the time, because what people think are tough and not tough. So because I remember, here we are, and people are talking about who a shooter is, and I'm like laughing my ass off. So people were actually scared of Steve Regal. Like they were scared. I don't know who said he was a badass. I was like laughing. I'm like, so he can hook people and he can submit people and he's a badass? Like, I just laughed about it internally, because when you're raised with Cowboy Bill Watts and you understand who's tough and who's not, and you truly have submission experience, and you truly have Sambo experience, and when you truly have amateur wrestling experience and all those fucking things like I've had, who's a stud, not a stud. And you know what? You're not scared of any of them, because truly, in a badass altercation, it's a chess match if you're truly a badass. Because it's almost like UFC. Let's see who can catch who in what situation, whether it's a knockout or a chokeout or whatever. So I laughed at it. I was like, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people were badass. Like Vader. You see Vader. Vader is one of the world's strongest men. I watched Paul Orndorff with one arm beat the shit out of him. But I knew Paul Orndorff was a badass, and everyone was like, I can't believe Paul Orndorff just did that. I'm like, I could believe Paul Orndorff just did it. Vader, I love Vader. Love him. God bless him in heaven or hell, wherever the hell he's at. But he thought he was a bully and got just bitch whipped in center stage in Atlanta like a child. And there was like, I can't believe. I'm like, because you idiots listen to rumors and exaggerations. So I used to say it. No, listen, I love Steve Regal. But I used to laugh at the guys going, so how do you guys know he's tough? Well, we heard the stories. What's the stories he told? And then he's bringing over athletes and they're telling the same story. Stop that shit. I'll put him in a fucking box in 2 seconds and have him suck his thumb. That's stupid. And I'm not talking, I don't care. Like I'm not trying to brag, but people have tried me and there's stories about what happens when they try me. I'm not bragging. It's like, if you can walk, you can walk. If you can whip ass, you can just whip ass. Right. And then so I used to listen to these stories about all these badasses. So everyone was scared of Chris Benoit. Oh, he's tough. You see him. And Chris treated me so kindly. And it was before he was ever anything here. I had nothing but respect from him because I'd heard about the true legends of wrestling over in Europe that were saying that he was a great worker. No one was talking about street fights. You know, the Tony Sinclair. If you guys don't know Tony Sinclair, look him up. Franz Schumann and Tony Sinclair, when I was over there, had the best matches of anybody in the world. I'm saying knockdown dragouts, historic matches. When you got legends like that talking about a Chris Benoit and this and this and that, you truly know who's good athletes. So before, out of the respect of the guys that were helping me out, I already knew about, you know, how good Chris Benoit was. So it was one of the first nights I met him, and we were going to wrestle, and he was sitting there throwing live punches against the wall, blooding his knuckles. When I'm telling you he is kicking this wall, I thought he was going to break bricks. And I looked at him and going, this guy doesn't get, this is entertainment. And I'm getting ready to go wrestle this guy. I'm like, if he kicks me like that and punches me like that, me and him are gonna have a fucking issue. But but literally from then to the day he passed, that's how he warmed up. Like he was overly aggressive. Like these kicks against these concrete walls, I don't see how he didn't blow his knee. That's how hard he was kicking the wall. And I'm like, what the fuck? And he goes, oh God, I just gotta get so focused. I want to rip your fucking head off. I just want to kick your guts out. And I was watching him going, okay, whatever. But that's how he focused. And then when he went out there, it was a shoot out there. But his kicks never touched you. His punches never touched you. But the way he psyched himself up, he was going for a street fight every time. And that's what made him so great. It was real to him. That's why he could dive off the top. That's why he could do all the stuff. That's why when he, you know, the crippler and all that stuff, all those signals, all that, mentally, he was saying he was going to crush you or hurt you. But he did not in the ring. He was one of the gentlest, kindest people in the world. But you go forward, and I heard these guys talking about Steve Regal, you know, and I was thinking to myself, me and Steve Regal wrestled 50 times. Never, ever, 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 ever did he try to tighten up on me, or would he have tightened up on me? Because let me tell you something, people that know things know things. He'd never tighten up on me because he'd get fucking murdered, you know, from an athlete to an athlete, right? But that's just how things happen in wrestling. You know, you hear about these shooters and they're not shooters. It's the guys that you don't hear about that are killers. You know, you go back in the day, Dick Murdoch knocked out more people than Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Steve Dr. Death Williams. But Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Steve Dr. Death Williams, I heard some of the worst bar fights I've ever heard in my life. Dr. Death Steve Williams, when he came out of Oklahoma, he literally had 10 different bowl rings, and occasionally he'd wear them. And I wanted to be a college football player, and I'm like, oh. And his bowl rings were kind of rounded, like they were damaged. And I'm like, Doc, can I ask something? Why are your bowl rings rounded? He goes, for the pussies that try to fight me. I go, what do you mean? He goes, this guy the other day spit on me on the way out. So I ran after him. He locked himself in the car. So I punched through the fucking car. I ripped him out, kicked him in the face 5 times. He got under the car. It was cold. I wasn't getting on my knees to pull him out to kill him. So I just did the bird bath. I go, the bird bath? What's a bird bath? He goes, that's why these rings are rounded. Because when people don't want to fight me, I just beat the top of their car until I put a bird bath in it. I'm like, that is insane. Yeah. One time, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Dirty Dick Slater. I'm gonna tell you, Dirty Dick Slater. There's a famous pro football player that did some movies and everything like that. He was known as a beast. And Dick Slater, Slater beat him up so bad in a hotel room that he went into his hotel. Slater and them were buying drinks at the pool and said, don't you ever come back out or I'll kill you. And the guy that was supposed to be known as the baddest NFL guy sat in there and goes, please let me out. Please let me out. You know, so there's a difference between people that talk about it and don't talk about it, right? But Hacksaw Jim Duggan, it was hilarious. When I come up to him, he's got this black eye, his eyes puffed up. I'm a little kid, you know, and loved Hacksaw. I'm like, Hacksaw, what happened? sit down, kid. I want to tell you a story. I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting down. All the guys are in the locker room, and I'm like, yes, sir. And he goes, so I was at a bar the other night, and this kid comes up, and he's just talking shit. And I got tired. Now, a lot of people don't know, Hacksaw Jim Duggan is legally blind. Like, all the times you see him in the ring, he didn't have contacts or anything. Everything's blurry to him. Like, he literally has some of the worst eyesight of any human. If you see his glasses, they're like the bottom of a Coke bottle. They're thick as hell.
Wow.
And so he's like, so this guy was running his mouth, and I'm thinking, well, you're gonna, because my dad, here's what my dad's rule was: don't get in a fight outside of wrestling. But if you do get in a fight, you better devastate and hospitalize the guy, because if you lose or you don't hospitalize him, I'm firing you. So there's a rule: don't get in a fight, but if you do, cripple the person, because if you don't, you're fired. So Duggan's like, I'm having them drinks, and this guy's running his mouth. And so I said, I can't remember the story. This was like 40 years ago, whatever it was. He's like, why don't you just shut up, or some shit like this? And he said, and the guy's like, fuck you. He goes, I could tell the guy was nervous. And so he goes, I turned around, and he goes, I put on my Dukes, and I'm going to kill this guy. He goes, and before you knew it, I don't know whether it was his feet or his hands, I got hit about 15 times in the face. He goes, my glasses flew off. He goes, the glasses flew off my face. And he's like, I've never been hit this many. He goes, I thought it was like 5 of his friends that were whooping my ass. He said, so I'm standing there like, okay. I don't know who I'm. He said, so I can't see anything. He said, so I see like shadows of a person in front of me. He goes, now, son, here's the deal. He goes, I went to jab. The guy wasn't there. I got hit 2 more times. So I went to jab, and the guy hit me 2 more times. Then I went to grab the guy, and I got hit 2 more times. He goes, whoever was kicking my ass. He goes, but Erik, I want to teach you something. He goes, when you have someone down, don't change your game. I'm like, yes, sir. What's that mean? He goes, so I finally went to grab a guy, and I thought I had his shirt, but I guess I grabbed the guy's face, and my thumb went in his mouth. He goes, well, my thumb was in his mouth. The guy starts biting my thumb, like really hard. And he goes, now I've got you. He goes, because now I knew where he was. I beat that son of a bitch into a coma. He went to the hospital. I think he's got broken orbitals and all that other stuff. He goes, had he just kept to his game, he would have whooped my ass. He goes, so son, stay to your game and never bite a man's thumb that's in your mouth. I'm like, yes, sir. All the guys are laughing so hard. Because, I mean, his face was black and blue. I'm like, and only like the way Hacksaw Jim Duggan can tell you the story, he was basically saying, not that the strikes were hurting him so much, but eventually you get hit enough, it's going to, phase you. And so the moral of the story was, don't bite a guy's thumb, because then he can find you. Don't change your game if you're in a fight. I laughed so hard. I'll never forget the story, because he was known as one of the animals. I mean, Buzz Sawyer and all these guys. Anyone that looks back at the Mid-South will tell you that not only was it the most talented locker room, but it was the most devastating locker room. Every once in a while you walk in the locker room and you could just tell tension, because people were wondering who was the baddest in the locker room. When you got like at one time you had Hacksaw Jim Duggan, you had Rick Steiner, Steve Dr. Death Williams, Buzz Sawyer, Dick Murdoch, Dick Slater, Barbarian, John Nord. You just had these guys, and all these guys were known for not just amateur football, amateur wrestling, but street fighters, like assassins. And you put them all in the same locker room, right? But the funny thing about it is, my dad, no matter what his age was or not, he walked in and all shit stopped. And I could always tell that I'm like, you know what, people. There was even a time where guys were like, I wonder if I could take him. But there was no fake stories about him. His notoriety, his street fighting, and guys saw him do things on tryouts and stuff like that. So pretty much, I would say if everyone wasn't scared of him, everyone was not sure. So none of even the young studs. Dusty Rhodes told me, he goes, "Hey, baby, let me tell you something." He goes, I was in the WCW office the other day, and your father, and we got to talk to your father because he put me at risk. I'm like, okay, Dream, what are you talking about? He's like, baby, here's the deal. Rick Rude hated your father. And he goes, and Rick Rude carries guns. And he goes, so I'm up at the WCW tower, and I see Rick coming in because your dad had fined him. He's like, I want to talk to Bill Watts, this motherfucker. He's like, oh, I knew your dad had it. So I knew your dad was going to talk to him. He said, Dream, get your ass in here. Rick, get your ass in here. He said, so now I'm sitting there and my dad is looking at me going, tell Rick what an idiot he is. And he's like, Bill, I understand that you find him. I think you're right for finding him. He goes, no, tell him what it is. Like, Bill, at this point, I know he's got a gun and I know you got a gun. He said, so I'm not saying shit. So my dad said something. He goes, you're fine. If you like it, you like it. You don't, you don't. If you got a gun, draw it. He goes, but you won't make it to your gun because I'll beat your brains out. And he said, Erik, I knew your dad couldn't get to Rick because there was a table. I just knew they were both going to pull guns and they're going to shoot my fat ass. And I was like laughing so hard because I could think about it. And here here's these two guys at TBS Towers, and my dad is a badass, but he always has a gun. And here Rick Rude he's a badass. he's got a gun. Now, in what corporate world are you at where there's the CEO of a company and there's the talent of the company, and then you got Dusty Rhodes, and he's not sure whether they're going to fight or shoot each other. He just doesn't want to get shot. He's like, so I got out of the office.
Erik, did you ever get fined yourself?
I got fined one time. And it was rough. I had been invited to Indianapolis. So we had like a 10-day run, and it was called Bear and the Blue River Parade or Blue and the Bear Parade or something. And they wanted me to be the marshal of the parade. And it is the second largest parade the week of the Indianapolis 500. And it was in a small town outside of Indianapolis that was known for being the biggest supporter of the Indianapolis 500. So it was an honor and respect. It was my first year and a half. So I'm sitting up, I'm the grand marshal, I'm throwing out beads and doing all my bullshit. After that, I had to go to a radio station to promote that night's event, which WCW set up. And I can't remember what it was, $100 a minute, $500 a minute, some kind of shit. Like, like on a house show, if you were a minute late, there was a dollar amount per minute you were late. And I pride myself always, football, wrestling, whatever, being there on time and all that. And so I'm doing this interview and I'm in a radio studio. We're doing the radio, and they're like, Erik Watts, thank you so much. But you got to get going or you're going to be late. I'm like, no, I'm good. And they're like, no, you're not good. So there's certain parts of Indiana, I did not know this, that the time change, there is no time change. They don't respect the time change.
Oh, shit.
Right. Erik didn't know this. So then Erik goes, oh, shit. And I remember calling Grizzly Smith. I'm like, Grizzly, I'm hauling ass. I'm doing the best I can, but I'm going to be late. He goes, you're going to be fine. And I got my ass fined off. I don't know if I was 15 minutes late. I don't know whether it cost me. I can't remember, $1,500, $15,000. It was something crazy. And I think that WCW allowed me to, like have a charity of my choice or some shit like so it could be a tax write-off. But that's the one and only time. And then it kind of pissed me off because I'm like, hold on, guys. I did this parade. I'm doing this radio thing. They go, yeah, but you should have known the time change. I'm like, really? Shouldn't you guys like you guys booked the radio show after the thing? Shouldn't you? They're like, no, but my dad was still in charge, so I didn't even. You know what? I didn't even fight. I'm like, okay, I fucked up. I got cussed for it too. But it wasn't as bad. Ron Simmons was so good to me. So Ron Simmons was on a flight one day, and he's like, "Easy," because sometimes they call me Easy or whatever. Easy, you got a lot of heat. He goes, "I don't know why. You're so good. I love you to death." He goes, "But I gotta tell you, I really don't like your father right now." Now think about this. Like we're sitting in seats across from each other, and he's gonna dog my dad. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, my dad, he just put the strap on you like a month ago, and now you're mad at my dad, right? But I did not know what he was mad at, because sometimes we were running 2 towns at a time, right? And he's like, "That motherfucker fined me $5,000. And I'm looking at him like, why would he fine you $5,000? He's like, "Because I was so drunk from the night before that I went to the airport and I got on the wrong plane to the wrong town. I missed the town." He said, "I got off the plane," and I'm exaggerate, but he goes, "I got off the plane, think I was in Chicago, and I was in fucking, like Philadelphia." And I'm like, "So what's the problem?" He goes, "Well, $5,000 is a lot of money." I go, "But you missed the whole town." He's like, "That's bullshit." He goes, "But I like you." I go, "Well, if I were you," and I was teasing. I was like, "If I were you, I'd go to his office and I would cuss him out." He goes, "Oh, I'm not that mad." But it was so funny. He goes, "But either way, I gotta tell you what, I really like you." And he was an angel to me. Like, there was guys, that never listened to the politics and didn't care. They either knew you as being, because you're true guys that were focused on the real thing, that truly got it. Let me tell you about wrestling, okay? The better the shows do, the more money you make. Now, WCW, everyone was a guaranteed contract. WCW got paid on the shows. But realistically, Sting and Steiners and whoever, the better we were doing, even at WCW, when you went to negotiate your contract, you made more money if the company's making more money. It just is, right? WWE, that's what I liked about WWE, because it was a weekly, the way you got paid, you immediately saw the benefit of the houses doing good, the house shows doing good. Whereas at WCW, if you agreed to get 1 year or 2 years, sometimes you agreed to a 3-year, sometimes you didn't give a crap because you're already making your money, right? And so it was kind of weird. So that's what I liked about WCW. I mean, excuse me, WWE, but there's benefits of WCW. So there's benefits. But my point is, I don't care if you're a McDonald's employee, you should know, in theory, the better McDonald's does, it should trickle all the way down. It just should. Like if I'm washing dishes at $9.50 and I see that their stock goes up and their earnings per share goes up and their profit EBITDA, and well, let me not get crazy. I do a lot in stocks and stuff. So my point is, if you see the health of a company goes up, I don't give a shit who you are. I think I think I should make $9.75. Period. And you're probably gonna get it. The guys that truly got that understood the business. So when you got to WWE, even though there was a lot of politics, when the politics drifted all the way up to the badasses like Undertaker and Shawn Michaels and that, when they really would look at heat, they may go, "That guy's got a lot of heat, but he draws money. And if he's drawing money, we all draw money." And so then a line would come down. It was when a person wasn't maybe drawing money or not, or kind of that if someone gave heat and someone had to make a judgment, okay, that person might be gone rightfully, right or wrong, they may be gone due to politics. But realistically, the guys like the Ron Simmons and the people, the way they looked at me was they would look at my matches, they would look at the crowd reaction, and I think they judged me on whether I was a benefit to the company or not. Whereas some people were just blinded by hate. There's a lot of people that were such ass kissers. They would just hate someone because someone they were hanging around hated someone. And they thought that kept them in the party. Okay, and that's politics, right? I mean, you're a Republican, you're a Democrat. So if you're a Democrat, you're gonna hate everyone Republican, and a Republican hate every Democrat over here in America. I find that so stupid. You know, there's a guy, and not to get into politics, but one of the reasons why some of the bills have stopped over here is there's a guy named Joe Manchin, which is a Democrat from West Virginia. But this guy is standing up saying, hey, I think we should be careful about how much we're going to put into roads and bridges. So I understand that all the Democrats are going to be mad at me, but I also don't want to put our grandkids that deep in debt. Well, everyone's going apeshit right now. What? He's a Democrat. He's supposed to sign on. And me as a person, Democrat or Republican, I'm like, no, what he's saying is, I'm looking at these bills as whether it's good news or bad news for Generation Steve. If it's going to help the generations, I'm for it. If not, so he's taken off his jersey whether I'm Democrat or Republican. But if you asked him, are you a Democrat or Republican, he would tell you all day, I'm definitely a Democrat. The difference is the guys in the business that didn't say I'm a Shawn Michaels fan or I'm an Undertaker fan or I'm a Vince McMahon. If they took off their jersey for a second, said I'm about who helps us bring in the most people, those guys were always, you know, they're always good to me. The guys that want to pick sides, they're just picking sides. And you know what? Since I've been out of wrestling, I've forgiven a lot of those guys. There's a lot of guys who go, oh, I hate you for no reason. I'm like, no shit. I knew that. Well, can you forgive me? Shit, I forgave you the day you didn't like me. You know, because I knew, I mean, like people that don't like you because of your color, your height, your sex, or whatever, those are ignorant people, right? Because they don't even know you. That's how it is into wrestling. Forget race and height, but I'm saying someone that just doesn't like you because they don't like you or because they think that they don't like you, it's called ignorance, you know? So shame on them. I don't give a shit.
Can I just ask you a question? It's just popped into my head when I'm thinking about dates and times.
Yeah.
You were in WCW at a time where Ric Flair obviously had just left to go to the other company.
Okay.
And he took the strap with him and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
How did that go down, that whole situation? Because a lot of stories get told about that as well. And it's like, if anyone knows what went on, fuck, you know what happened.
Well, you know, you bring up you're bringing up a valid point. I got to be honest with you because I pride myself in memory, and I don't know if I have a good memory of what was truly happening at that time with Rick. You know, Rick is he's an enigma. Like, I've never been around so many people that praise Rick. I always tried to respect Ric Flair because he's Ric Flair. However, the little I do on the indie circuit, as far as autograph sessions and things like that,
Yeah.
the last 2 or 3 times I've had relationships with people that have relationships with Ric Flair, it has been nothing but horrible. I mean, their relationship, yeah. I mean, some guys that there's guys that I truly believe, and he held them up for ransom big time. Like, I could give you stories of how bad he did some people, but I don't want to go there. But when I say he really did them bad, he really did them bad, and it's not hearsay. And he really fucked up some hotel rooms, and it's not hearsay. It's just not hearsay. And I hate it so much because, you know, he came up to me when David broke in at WCW. When he first broke in, he came to me actually, and he said, hey, I understand you know how this works. You know, I asked that my son wrestle you for a certain reason. Would you give him a great match but put him over? And he goes, and I'm going to be on the sidelines. I think Arn Anderson or someone else was too. And I said, absolutely. I don't, you know, I get paid at WCW, so I get paid, you know, whatever. I have no ego to it. And then we had a match, and David was very new to the business. And Rick actually came up. He goes, you brought the best out of my son. And I'm not just saying it, like, you really shined him. And I said, well, because that was the greatest compliment in the world, right? And I heard some great Ric Flair stories, and I talked to Rick, and Rick was great. But I also heard some horror stories about he treated some people, but I'm like, well, that's just Rick. I've heard that too. But I got to tell you, I haven't done a whole bunch, but let's say in the last 5 years, some of the stories I've gotten from guys I personally know that paid me to go do things and not do things, or I was personally on some events that turned out the events turned out great, but the stories were horrible. I don't even know what to say. I really don't. I mean, it's to the point I was doing some consulting for a company 2 years ago that I was there about a year and a half, and there was a tattoo place right next to this company. And there was a girl from my work that was into tattoos I'm not into, and it was about her mom that died of breast cancer. And so she went to go get this breast cancer tattoo, and the guy was a huge wrestling fan. He goes, "Is that Erik Watts that I see going to that company?" She goes, "Yeah." So she invited me to come meet the guy. Well, the guy was the biggest Flair fan in the world. And he actually wanted to talk to Rick because not David, but the what was Rick's son that OD'd? What was his name?
Reed.
So sorry, Reed. I've met Reed a few times, but I couldn't remember his name. He's like, Reed's last few tattoos were with me. I'm like, wow, that's big. He goes, I actually wanted to get a picture of Flair on my back by one of my tattoo artists. I think my wife's going to kill me for doing it, but I'm that big a Flair fan. And the way I am, just like with that Mid-South, the Mid-South show in England, I thought I appreciate these guys wanting to bring me on to the Mid-South show. But if I could just talk my dad into being there because he's the one that built Mid-South, it would blow the commentator away. It'll blow the fans away. And I do, like we said at the beginning of the show, I just truly care about carrying on the legacy of pro wrestling and appreciate people like you. So I'm like, how would it be more important that I comment on the show they're doing, or what if I bring the person that did it? And I really said two things the whole hour and a half, because I think that's what's right for the sport. And I was just like, man, I think it would blow this guy's mind if I could get Ric Flair, that lives 10 miles from this place, to come up here and meet this guy. And I think it'd mean a lot to Rick to hear this guy talk about the fact that he was doing a tattoo, and actually Reed was supposed to come for one more session and finish that tattoo, but then he OD'd. And then I go, but I can't count on Rick, meaning he doesn't owe me shit. But would he say, Erik, why are you asking me? I don't care. The guy's lying. I don't try. And then it just weighed on my shoulders. So, I was telling a girl I hang around with, and she was like, Erik, why do you do these shows? I go, I do the show to give back. But she goes, but why do you do it? I said, just that. It's the respect for the people before my father that laid the ground to allow me to do what I did. It's the respect for that. That says it in a nutshell. Flair has gotten to a point in his life that it seems like, is bigger than the sport. And I'm sad for it, because he could probably have talked to this guy. It could have probably given him insight to read, things. It could have maybe done big things. I don't know, emotionally, right? But you can't count on it. And I was with a very good friend of mine the other day, and he was like, Erik, Flair did something, which I never talk about Flair. I'm talking about him now, but I don't. And he's like, he did something so treacherous that he's going to lose sponsorships on advertising. I mean, he has this is what the guy said. The guy said that Flair has done so much crazy shit lately that Jake Roberts is the Pope of wrestling. I'm like, what? He's like, no, like Flair's name is Mud. He goes, and I never thought Flair's name could ever be Mud. That's like Jesus Christ name being Mud to a religion, right? And I'm like, really? Now, I don't keep up with stuff, guys, so I don't know necessarily what he's talking about, but the guy was like, no, he is shit. Like AEW doesn't want him, WWE. He goes, and he left WWE, and he was doing great on AEW. He's like, he has burnt the bridges so bad that no one wants him. I'm like, wow. Now, karma, whatever. Maybe karma finally came around. I don't know. And it's sad because Ric Flair had the pro wrestling world in his hands for as long as he wanted. He could do no wrong. So, guys, what I'm trying to tell you by the story, not to be Hacksaw Jim Dugan.
Sure.
Don't stick your thumb in wrestling's mouth. What I'm trying to say is, when people become bigger, okay, don't become bigger than wrestling. Don't become bigger than. Don't become such a celebrity you don't understand what pays you and how you get paid. It is absolutely your ability to entertain. It's absolutely your ability to perform. But minus an audience, you would be doing this for cows and shit that can't pay, right? The reason I live where I live, the reason why I do what I do is because of pro wrestling. Let me tell you how crazy this was. And again, I'm mentioning Dallas Page because me and him do business together too. I was with Dallas, and we were somewhere. I was taking him and his girlfriend with me and my girlfriend. There's a place called Burt's Pumpkin Patch, and it's north of where I live, and it's in the middle of nowhere in these like hills and mountains. Probably an hour from my house. And DDP is the biggest Christmas guy in the world. I mean, Christmas. Oh Jesus! Just stop the press. There's no one bigger on Christmas than Dallas Page, right? So I try to celebrate some things here and there. Well, one of the things I like doing is going out and getting these, like, 150 pound pumpkins with smaller pumpkins and do up some stuff. I do a little Christmas stuff too, and then carve them and all that. Well, so I called Dee. I said, Dee, have you ever done anything for Halloween? He goes, I'm not big into Halloween. I said, would you want to come help me pick my pumpkin out this year? He goes, you pick pumpkins out. I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, why don't you just go to Pike's Nursery or whatever around here and get pumpkins? I said, because there's only one place I like going. He's like, if there's one place you go, we're going. So he met me out there, and he was like blown away. He's like, look at the size of these effing pumpkins, and white and green and mongoloid, and they have all these different, and they've got pumpkin bread and pumpkin honey and pumpkin. It's just everything pumpkin, right? And then there's this Ruby Falls that's right there. So we went up to the mountain, we washed over some falls and all this other stuff, and we just had a great time, right? And looking, I was talking to him, and I had gotten my mail that day on the way out, and I was like, Dallas, I haven't truly wrestled. I've done 2 or 3 small shows just to do something to help someone else out, but nothing. I said, since 2005. I said, look what I got today. I said, and it comes every 3 months. He's like, what? And it was a big ass envelope, WWE. And it was a royalty check. I'm like, every 3 months I get royalties. Still to this day, I get royalties. They could be big to you. They could be small to you. They could be whatever. It just reminds me, like, I tell you what, when I get it, I almost every time want to call Vince and go, thank you. Thank you. You know what? Because with other legal teams and shit like that, they could sit there and blow it off. I would know different. I'm not going to get an accountant, forensic accountant, and see the DVDs and shit. I'm just not going to do it. It's just that I look back and go, I haven't been in wrestling since 2005. And because my dad chose this and he did whatever, and I followed in his footsteps, to this day, whether it's $1 or $100,000 or $1 million, it doesn't make a shit. Because I got to do what I love, they still compensate me. What the fuck? How many people get to do that in their life? How many people go, I loved what I did and I get paid for it? Because the definition to me, and this is like watching Dallas doing his yoga stuff, which is incredible. Dallas will tell you, like I'll tell you, when you're doing what you love, you're never working. This isn't work being with you guys. It takes time. It ain't work, but it's not work. And I don't give a shit if you guys make $1 on your podcast or 10 million. It's not work to you either. This is life. This is life, And if I can clock in, clock out, and make some money doing what I do, it's just it's like winning the lottery, right? So and then my wife at the time, when I was at WCW, I signed the deal, and I learned from a few guys, because most guys wouldn't do it. I would go pick up. They made you come get your checks, so I'd have to send my wife or whatever. Well, a guy named Johnny B. Bad, I don't know, Mark Marrow. Yeah. So I knew Mark, and Mark's like, hey, Erik, a lot of people, because they don't know where you live, is going to send fan mail to WCW. I said, oh, okay. I said, so why are you telling me that? He goes, well, if you don't ask them, they'll just throw it away. Not being mean, they just don't, there's so much fan mail that comes in. You have to request that they give you your fan mail. I said, okay. I was like, okay. So I just sent my wife, I'm like, hey, Georgie, tell them that I want my fan mail. So you got paid every 2 weeks. So the next time I came, they didn't have like a mailbag. They had like 3 mailbags. And I'm like, I've only been on TV 2 or 3 times. And there must be 1,000 letters in here. And so she comes home, she goes, what are we going to do with this? I go, I don't know. So Johnny, Barry Windham, Mike Graham, Vern Gagne, Kevin Nash, Booker T. Washington, we all were in the same apartment complex because you could walk from there to Sting and Lex Luger's Main Event Fitness to work out. Greatest pool. It was 2 towers that were filled of chiropractic students, pro wrestlers, and strippers. So you can imagine what the pool looked like when you came home. So you're beat up and you come home, you're like, at least I'll just go out to the pool and see all the people. And it was awesome. So, I even had a huge balcony on the penthouse looking over the pool because I was like, yeah, okay. And it was like Christmas every day. So I went down to Johnny and go, Johnny, I got like 3 bags of mail. And he goes, come here. I walked into one of his rooms. I can't tell you how many bags of mail he had. I go, what the hell do you want me to do with it? He goes, I want you to try your hardest to sign every one of them. I go, what? So I had called WCW up. I need 1,000 pictures. I need this. And literally, if I was home for 2 or 3 days, I would take 6 hours. I would read, or my wife would read as much as she could. And I would sign. Because what WCW would do is you put in envelopes. When you went to go get your check the next time, you dropped off however much you dropped off, they would pay for all the postage. And it was because of Mark Merrow that, and not because, he taught me, I'm like, I really want to sign as much stuff as I can. Why I'm telling this message is I bought another house about 1.5 years ago, moved. I was moving stuff out of my attic and I still had 2 boxes of mail. And I have been working on trying to find it. Like I'll send a letter saying, send it back if this is you. I got only a stack left still from those days. Why that means a lot to me is Mark was like, but if they took the time to send this out, shouldn't we respond? And I'm like, yeah. There's some upstairs, I'm telling you right now, I'm thinking about it, that bring me to tears. Like, gosh. Now people have found out where I live somehow now. And I'll get some. My daughter just played last night on ESPN. She's a 6'1" guard for the Naval Academy, and things like that. So I've had some people say, hey, I'm following your daughter. It's her sophomore year on college. Can I get your signature and things like that, especially if they're military and things. I do what I can do. But even back from those days, I have probably 35, 36 letters still that I haven't found a home for. Some that don't respond after a year. But some will send out and they'll say yes, but I move and some crazy shit. I got about 35 letters I haven't found the owners to that I plan. Why I'm telling you all this is nothing about me. That's what my dad taught me about pro wrestling. Without the fans, you don't kiss their ass. You don't sit there and say, you respect where you're at and why you're there. Just like you guys, you're respecting wrestling enough, but you're also respecting to push the news down, or you're trying your hardest to keep wrestling relative, important, and to pass along to generations information. And that's so very important. And that's why I do what I do. And those are the guys that I truly understand. Those are the guys, like with my dad, he's so beat up and he hurts so bad. And, my dad's always said, listen, I was a depression baby in America when the depression was, so my dad, his parents started making him pay rent at 13 years old. At 13 years old, right? So he understands it. And he goes, so you didn't make any of the money I made? I go, no, sir, I didn't. He goes, so you're never going to get a dime that I made. I go, I don't want it. And that's how I've lived my life forever, right? he doesn't need I have people, they'll message me, would your dad come on this? I have turned down literally in the last 2 weeks for him at least 3 podcasts, $3,000 an hour. At least $3,000 an hour. He goes, I don't give a shit. I don't want to sit in a chair for an hour to talk because my back hurts so fucking bad. I'm like, I got you. So when finally I said, hey, but this is a Mid-South podcast in England. Your dad was from Liverpool, but I just think it would be just mind blowing. So people aren't going to ask you about Bill Watts. They're asking about Mid-South. He goes, I'll look into it. I said, no, I'm going to send you the link for the episode they want to run. Look at it or don't look at it. I'm asking you for me because remember the fans. As soon as I said that, I could hear him go, send me the link. It was done. No, it's done. It was done. And I still thought there's a 50-50 chance he's going to blow me off because he hurts. It's not because he's mad. It just hurts.
Yeah.
He did it, man. I called him because we had to get off. And then I had to share some ESPN information with him so he could get on ESPN to watch my daughter play basketball last night. But he goes, Erik, son, thank you. You know what? I had a blast. Now, I've never done a podcast with my father either, but it wasn't about that. It was about, he even told the guy, he goes, your questions hit so perfect. And I can tell you know more about that episode than I'll ever remember. But because you care that much, there must be people that care that much. And the guy was like doing it for his 2-year anniversary on this episode. He goes, Erik said you've done 2 years of this. Thank you. I've never heard my dad, not that he didn't. He went from to thank you, and it was great, right? So that just reminds me of why we do what we do and what's important about what we do, and appreciating what we do. When I'm with Dallas Page and I don't know what his check is or doesn't, I don't give a shit. But I was like, Dee, because he had a run longer than me, bigger than me, But I was like, Dee, think about this, bro. They still send me money, and he's like, damn. And I'm like, damn, right? So that's when you're talking to the true players and the people that truly understand and appreciate it. And I was blessed by being raised into it, and it was a curse too, right? Because I've buried more friends in the last 11 years than Vietnam vets have buried, because it was a crazy time when I came in. We had a lot of big guys that didn't know what they were doing, that were just big ass athletes. So we hurt each other. There was a time in which, you took what you took and you did what you did so that you could perform. I mean, I've got, a lot of people don't know, I was mandated to stop wrestling because after not Survivor Series, but not King of the Ring, but Jesus. I'll think about it in a second, but after a pay-per-view at WWE, I burst my esophagus, and I wrestled for 3 or 4 more years after that. But still to this day, my throat, you can hear it raspy. I cough blood. I choke on every other meal. I've got surgical marks that aren't too bad where they went out and pulled my stomach up and wrapped around my esophagus. But when the stuff with Benoit, Royal Rumble. So when Benoit and all that shit happened, you used to be able to sign your life away to the federation, so that if you died, like if you had some injuries that you probably shouldn't wrestle, as long as you would sign something that said your family, if you die, could not sue the federation. So that was cool. But when Benoit did what he did and all that, they got rid of anyone that was even questionable. And it got to a point where I was uninsurable and I was a liability. And but I had 2 companies. I had a paint company and a construction company, but it tortured me, but even my kids now, I'll still be at dinner and start choking and they remember. But I was like, what's funny? Had Vince and these people said they couldn't insure me, so I couldn't wrestle, I'd probably be dead too. Because I just keep on doing it. Not because I'm a fool. I'm not a fool. You can't own companies and do what I've done if you're a fool. It's just, it was ingrained in me. I loved it. I loved it that much. And I love it. I don't watch AEW and WWE. Now I couldn't be up to date about it because sometimes it frustrates me, because when you see it, you get so juiced up about it, but I live and breathe pro wrestling, man.
It's like we do, Jordan, right?
We're hooked. And I wanted to ask you before Chris. I know Chris is desperate to ask you about TNA.
It can work. It's cool. Yeah.
I have one question because during that time in WCW, in the UK, WCW was just starting to make its way like over to us, and the action figures and stuff like that started to come out. We had random action figures, UK exclusives of people like Big Josh and all that. You mentioned Johnny B. Bad. I found this is right next to my laptop.
That's awesome.
Why wasn't there an Erik Watts figure?
I think, and first of all, let me just say this: it's hard to sign a figure, but if you somehow, I'll give you my address. You can send that to me, and I'll get Mark to sign that for you, and I'll send it back to you if you want to. I'll be more than happy to do that. Find the postage, send the postage in, and I'd be more than happy to do it because I appreciate your love for the sport. I think that what happened to me was I was at WCW, my first 3 years it was, no one got figures. I mean, literally it was only the top dudes, like the Sting or the Vader, whatever. And I can tell you that WCW was not as up to speed as WWE was when it came to all things marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then when I went to WWE, I'm there and Vince and them were going to drop the belts on me and Chad Fortune within 3 weeks. It was crazy. And then Chad just had a difficulty in the locker room, and he had difficulty. He was a high-end athlete, but he just made stupid errors. And because we were tagged, and because it was my choice to bring him up there, they sent us to Memphis. So then after that, Vince he let Chad go and was wanting to repackage me. Well, the package took too long. So I said, hey, I here's the deal. I don't have like every day that I'm not wrestling, I'm not learning to be a master of my craft. So I appreciate the money you're sending me, but what the shit does it matter? Like you have to wrestle. I was averaging 305 matches a year for a long time. And I'm like, all of a sudden, if you go down to 0, how do you catch that shit up?
Mm.
Like guys used to get their schedules at WCW and they would high five to see who had the lowest because they're getting guaranteed money. I would be pissed. Now, because I did my contract different and I did it for a reason, that they had an incentive to book me at least 25 times. So I did that on purpose because I wanted as much exposure as possible. So WWE is different. And when we're hot, we're hot. And then he sent us to Memphis and things happened in Memphis. So I think what ended up happening was in TNA, at TNA, I don't even know, because I remember when they scheduled me and they brought in the lasers and they did the 360 lasers around me and shit. And I think that Jeff Jarrett at the time had a problem with me and kiboshed it. But I can tell you, only TNA, I would imagine TNA is about the only place that was going to make a doll, due to the fact that, even at WWE, you had to be established, right? Matt and Jeff Hardy didn't have a doll the first, few years, and later on sometime. And please don't take this wrong, but I gotta cut off pretty soon. And if we want to do another segment some other time, we do, because we've been on here about 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Or so.
Wow. Yeah.
No, we have, and so I got some things I've got to do, but later on I'll tell you, because Matt and Jeff Hardy got their outfit from me, and I had brought. I decided to do an indie show for the hell of it, and I was going to prove to people that Vince and WCW care about wrestling. So I did an indie show in Tulsa. I didn't even live in Tulsa. Found another guy to help me promote it. Called WCW for some athletes. I called WWE for some athletes, and they all gave me some athletes. Then we brought in Terry Bam Bam Gordy, Steve Dr. Death Williams, Michael Hayes. I was going to wrestle Bam Bam Bigelow. Skandar Akbar came. They sent Elizabeth and all this other stuff. So Vince, when he made the deal with me to send me some talent, he said, hey, do you mind if I send these two kids? I think they're really good, and I would like just to get some more work. And I said, yeah. And so Prince Albert, I don't know if you guys remember Prince Albert, right?
Yeah.
So Prince Albert was part of the package, and so he comes. So Prince what a great guy. We're in the back, and I got a lot going on. I flew in. I'm main event. It was sold out. Tulsa Fairgrounds. I think the ticket sales back then, it was sold out. I think we did over $48,000 in money that night, which is off the fucking chart. It was sold out, period. And Prince comes, he goes, "Hey guys, come here." And I was at WCW at the time, and they go, "Talk to him." And these two kids come up and go, "Sir?" I go, "Yeah." And I said, "You're the tag team out of North Carolina," something like that. Vince is high about. He goes, "Oh, we didn't know he's that high about us, but we got to be honest with you. When you came back to WCW, you got these jeans and with colors on them." I said, "Yeah, I went to this place called Hot Topics." They go, "Oh my God, yeah, Hot Topics." It was a big and they're still around. It was more like a grunge skateboard. They had the jeans and the tight shirts. I said, "Yeah, I just brought it on." And the thing about it was, Bischoff brought me back, and Dallas was excited, and I'm having these great matches, and Bischoff goes, "I don't like his outfit." I'm like, "Dallas, F me. You mean to tell me I'm busting my ass? He's loving me. But he wants me to change my outfit? Tell him F off. I'm done with this. I'm done with the games. I've never been that way. But I had it. Like, don't, my outfit you don't like now." It was so funny how this happened. So I'm doing Saturday night, I'm doing Monday night, I'm doing the shit, and I got to hear the only thing he wanted me to do is change my outfit. So these two kids come up, and Albert's like, "Talk to him." And like, "Sir, we know not to steal moves, and we know not to steal outfits. No, we know not to steal finishes, and we know not to steal outfits." I go, "What's your point?" They go, "We love your tight shirt, and we love how you wear the jeans and the dark boots, and you change it up." I go, "What are you asking me? Can we take this to Vince? We want this to be our outfit at WWE." And in the back of my mind, I was replaying the recording of Dallas going, "They're really happy with you coming back. They just want you to change the outfit." And I just said, "Tell them to fuck off." Like that. It pisses me off. Like, pick something else, right? Or why don't you do this? Design an outfit and ask me to wear it.
Yeah.
But now it's the politics. Someone's mad that Erik Watts is there. I want to play the politic game. So you're going to stick me on the shelf because of my outfit? Nah. So I'm like, you know what? And I didn't know these kids from Adam. I did not know whether they're going to be good or not. Vince McMahon had said, "Hey, I got these two kids. Would you do me a favor? You don't even have to pay them." I said, "Sure, Vince." Vince was loaning me fucking like 3 or 4 main people I needed for my show. Of course, Vince, I'll do it. First of all, who the hell am I? But it shows you how cool Vince is, right? So I'm like, okay. And I said, "Yeah, I'd love for you to." So I remember I called Paige. I go, "Dude, I know Erik doesn't like my outfit, but someone likes my outfit." And he goes, "Who?" I said, "There's 2 young kids that are going to take it to Vince. It's going to be hot as hell at WWE." He goes, "What's their name?" I go, 2 kids out of North Carolina, Matt and Jeff Hardy. And he goes, "I never heard of them." I go, "Well, they want my outfit." And he goes, "Well, what does that mean to me?" Shit, bro. 2 months later, Matt and Jeff are fucking on top of the world. Not on the top, but they're climbing. He's like, "That's your outfit." I go, "No shit." They asked me if they could wear it, right? And then I'm like, "So ask Bischoff if he likes that outfit." And not dogging Bischoff. It's just politic bullshit. But these stories, you can't make them up. This is on a show I put together. Whatever reason, karma, these kids ask and all this other stuff, and that's how that happened. So, I don't know. So the doll thing never happened. I got 3 or 4 people asking me to do dolls now. I don't know who's good and who's not. But I'm gonna let one of these companies make a doll of me, and see where we can go with it, just for the hell of it. More for my kids. I mean, my one kid's 22. My daughter's 2nd year starting in Navy. She's 17. I mean, but still, maybe have a doll around so when their kids have, when they have kids, they can say, "Hey, my dad had a doll," but it'd be way after I wrestled, right? But yeah, you guys are right.
Well, if they do make a figure, if they do make a finger, surely it's got to be that Erik Watts TNA like look, because
It
that
has
is
to be,
the
man.
killer look of all looks.
Killer.
You look like
Okay,
a mean SOB.
so this is so crazy we're talking about this, right? Because thank you for saying that. That's one of my issues. So what is it? Is it Techno Team 2000? No, that's a WWE, so I can't touch. So when you say TNA, right? So when I was at WCW, you guys remember when I came back the second time, I wore the black or blue jeans with the yellow stripes and the tight shirt.
You wore that in ECW too, right? For a little while.
Yes. I wore it at ECW.
Sure.
So when I went to TNA, it was when Vince Russo wanted to get me on the mic more. And so he's like, let's come up with this thing called Director of Authority, because we were hanging out all the time. I said, let's do this. And then I didn't know what I was going to wear. And so I'm like, what? So I remember he talked to me on a Tuesday. We had to go Wednesday. I said, what's my thing going to be? Because Director of Authority. Guys, I took jeans out of my closet and I burned my fingers because I didn't have gloves. I took a washcloth into bleach and I wrote DOA on jeans, hoping it wouldn't bleed, washed them. Then I had like a Tommy Hilfiger black shirt.
Yeah.
And then I wore like a beanie hat. And that's what, so is that what you guys are remembering when I wore the big shirt with the jeans with the DOA on it?
Yeah, it was the jeans, it was the shirt, and it was also how you went, because you had really long hair at that time as well. So you had like the ponytail at the top, but then the loose hair coming down. Dude, that was my shit.
Chain across the
the
chain. Yeah.
Like your TNA run was amazing. Like I will mark out each and every single time. That era of TNA, when it first came through, it was like the new WCW. It was fucking innovative. You had loads of good guys in there. You were having some great matches with Don Callis and all that. You were getting involved with DDP, Raven, the whole Goldilocks thing as well. It was
all
great.
Right, let's do this. Let's do this. I don't know if you guys can do this, but if there's any way that we could end here, and if you ask me not to, I'll stay a little bit longer. But
no, it's absolutely.
No,
but here, hold on. Let's end. Let's pick this up at a date of your choice. But there's a lot going on pretty soon. But whether it's next week, JB, you've got my number, right? And you guys share my number. Let's get on. Let's do TNA, because now you guys have got me going, because I want to do this doll. So I was wondering, if I have the jeans and it says DOA, if people remember if you did WCW, but I did a lot of jeans. I did do what I call the 2-tier ponytail. Yep. I did glasses. I did tight shirt. And I think that would be the way I should do it. I wish I could show you someone sent me a picture when I was at GCW. I had the jeans and I actually wore a GCW. They came out with like a sweatshirt. And I cut the neck out of the sweatshirt to wear to the ring. And I had the hoodie and the glasses. And if I told you how many thousands of dollars I lost with the whole glass thing, because I'd find the most pimp glasses and I'd wear them and somehow they wouldn't make it back. And I'm like, so why am I buying $300 and $400 glasses to not make it back to the dressing room? I was like laughing so hard. It really was. But I got a big head, so you got to have the right glasses and shit. But it's hilarious because I'm like, God, I like those glasses. God, let's do this. Let's dance with the TNA. Let's do it. Let's do another interview. Let's go all TNA. We can do WCW. Let's do this. But honestly, let it be known that you guys are helping me with the thought, and I need to do it soon. But I gotta find. If you guys find some images, now I got the one with the chain. My favorite image that I can't find a good JPEG of. My favorite image of all images is someone took a picture of me. I was sitting in a seat with a TNA mic. And I had my hands taped. And I actually use it for a publicity picture, but I don't have the JPEG anymore. So they're getting faded. I'm trying to find that original, which won't do good as a doll. But literally, if you guys see some pictures of me in that outfit that you like, please email them to me, send them to me, because these people that are wanting dolls are like, tell us what you want. And I would love to have your guys' input you know, if you can find images, please send them to me, and so that maybe I can send them off, because I want to get a doll sooner than later.
There's a cool one where you were involved in the match between Raven and DDP, and everyone thought you were going to come and help one of them, and you screwed them, and you helped the other guy, and you were standing in the ring, and it was that outfit. It was the black shirt with the jeans and the hair with the ponytail. That's the shit, dude.
Well, I'd like to find that. DDP had made me change my outfit there at the end, which I did it, but I didn't like it. He had me in the big pants, the singlet with a W on my stomach.
I remember.
It looked good. It looked good, but I was a little out of shape, and it was well, Dixie Carter knows the end of TNA was a horrible situation for me, because I was going through a divorce for 5 years, and it was the most ridiculous. You thought I was a fucking Kardashian. It was the dumbest shit ever, and it drug it to the point where I hadn't seen my kids in a year. The legal system was trash. I had to have people like take pictures of my kids so I could just see my kids. It was horrible, and it was, all of a sudden pro wrestling became real. He's 6'6", 300 pounds. I'm scared of him. Well, we were married 15 years. What are you scared of? I've never touched anyone. Well, hold on. I've never touched a woman. Blah, blah, blah. So it got ugly. But my point was that it crushed me, because my legal team got with me, and they're like, look, you're blood, you're this, but TNA is good about it. But here's the deal. We're getting ready to end this divorce. And if you are making crazy money, the way this is going, they're going to handicap you with child support, so that if you don't wrestle for the next 12 years, you're going to be paying this child support. So in order to negotiate at the very end of this, you need to get out of wrestling and then go back. Right. So I remember because I called Dixie, because this is the shit. Dallas comes in, Raven's there, and they both want angles with me. So the angle was going to be that I face Raven, and what was going to end up happening was that Raven was going to disclose that I had been sleeping with Kimberly Page, Dallas's wife. And out of nowhere, me and Dallas were going to go into an angle.
Wow.
Now, what a lot of people don't know was there was a company, I'll look it up. It was an NWA or someone that got the rights to a company. And about, 6 months before that, this guy calls out of Chicago. He was running a show like in Phoenix, Arizona or something, sold out, had got the rights to like NWA or AWA. I think it was AWA. Made a belt, made the whole thing. Decides to run the show, and is going to run shows like once a month, and was paying huge money, and was going to bring in top talent. And they called DDP and said, hey, we want you to have the title. And Dallas goes, I can't have the title where I'm at. And they go, okay, who do you suggest that you would want to wrestle? And Dallas goes, Erik Watts. And they go, God, yeah, we were thinking Erik Watts too. And he goes, and I think you should put the title on him. And they go, holy shit, yeah, let's do it. I didn't know all this. So then I get a call, and the guy goes, would you wrestle DDP in Phoenix or wherever for the title? Knowing that they're going to put the title on Dallas. I said, sure. And they go, matter of fact, another person asked if they could be part of the match. I go, who? And they go, Mick Foley. I go, he
was the ref. Was he the ref?
He was the freaking ref.
I know. I remember that shit.
He was the freaking ref.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, okay, we're going to have a three-way match, right? Yeah. He was the ref. Dallas loses to me. And it was kind of crazy because we all had to jet out different ways. And Mick goes, and I wouldn't even think about it. He goes, you got to ride the airport? I go, yeah. And he goes, go with me. And so I got in the car with him, and Mick was so deep, and I knew Mick for a long time, that Mick, he took the time in the car to go, finally, Erik. I go, finally what? And I go, finally, you get the right shit. I go, what do you mean? He goes, DDP called that all the way. I jumped on this show to be a part of it because it's your time now. People have held you back. It's your time. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, you got the belt. These guys are going to run towns. They're going to do this. Dallas wanted it. Dallas loves you. I love you. I want to be a part of it. Because I was even thinking, like, you flew Mick Foley in to be a rep, right? And then as soon as that shit happened, of course, the company goes to hell.
Yeah.
But it was like 6 months, a year later. Now Dallas is going to come to TNA, and you know, Hogan's a part of it and shit like this. You know, there's Hogan and all this, and Dallas is like, no, because you talked to Raven. Raven said Eric's the hottest thing in TNA. Jeff Jarrett hates it, but he's the hottest thing. So Dallas is like, fuck it. Hogan and Jarrett are doing their things, and is Hogan and is he not? And Jeff's got all the shit he needs to do. Why don't we just run this circle? So, and believe it or not, in that match with Raven, it hurt my heart. I went out of the ring, I dislocated my shoulder. And if you watch the match, I was trying to put my shoulder back in. Shit. I finally got my shoulder in, and Raven said, choke slam me. And he went to the side that I popped my shoulder out, and I tried to lift him and he fell. And then I had to pick him up again and do it. And I was so hurt and so embarrassed. So after that match, I'm like, okay, it's on. We're going to do this Dallas Page thing. We're going to do this Raven thing. And my lawyer called up and goes, Erik, if you run this run, I can't tell you what's going to happen. They're not going to settle. They're not going to do shit. And they're going to stick everything in your brains. And I called Dixie, and Dixie's like, Erik, please don't. I go, I got to. And she was kind enough. She goes, you know, you got X number. I can't remember what I had. I had like 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks left in my contract. And she goes, okay, we'll let you go. Let us send you the rest of the contract. And, you know, whatever it was, marketing money. I go, no. She goes, what do you mean? I go, no. She goes, I don't need the money. I go, I can't. I literally quit and would not receive the rest of the payments in order to get divorced. And then I got divorced, and then 3 years later, I went back and fought and got custody of my kids back. And so it was a crazy story. But just so you guys know, that's how shit. And, you know, that's when I knew things were going to take off. I wasn't hurt because I was still coughing blood and all this other stuff. Sure. But it was effing crazy. So, you know, if we, you know, like, let's set this up. Let's do some TNA. Let's talk. But guys, if you find something that would be right, and, you know, they're going to need stuff of me standing up or whatever image. If you guys find images, WCW, help me design this doll, you know, because if you guys do this in the next week and a half, 2 weeks, the guy's dogging me every day saying, would you send me something? Would you send me something? So if you guys see some images, please share them with me. You got my email. Let's do this.
Oh, no. What
Absolutely.
a shame. I'm going to have to watch some TNA. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah, but we got to be able to steal images that are good enough, because I don't know what this guy says. You know, I don't know whether he means, does he need the quality so that he can do the laser? I don't know. But I'd like to get some images and send them to him and say, this is what we want.
There's good quality. There's good quality footage online, and I watch a lot of TNA on YouTube, and they've got their own like video archives as well. So,
they do.
Yeah.
I got to look into that, because my kids have been beating me up, and I'm like, I wish, you know, because Dixie's out of it now, you know, and I was thinking about calling Dixie. I haven't talked to her in 10 years, because what I'd like to do is I'd like to find all the archives of when I was there, whether I had to pay for it or not, because I'd like to show them the storyline. You know,
Tommy Dreamer. Speak to Tommy Dreamer.
Their mom even got invited on to 2 of the shows with Goldilocks. And later, and we'll talk about that, because that was part of the divorce.
No.
People don't know that. Vince Russo did that sick shit because he's a sicko. I love him. He's a sicko. He's like, you're getting divorced. I'm like, yeah. And you got me like in a deal with Goldilocks, and now I'm going home trying to save my marriage in counseling, and now she thinks I'm banging Goldie. Yeah. He's like, so he goes, how mad is she? I go, she will kill me. She's gonna kill me. He's like, she's gonna take all my money away. And that's when he goes, let's do an angle where you lose all your money. So no, he's just sick. No, he's sick. He's sick. And so me and him talked it through. Guys, I'm telling you, if you guys look at the episodes, I can tell you how it was going, because it's all based on my divorce. It was horrible, and I loved it. Yeah, he's a sicko.
That'd be
love
great.
him.
We'll do a TNA episode where if we can get you back on, that'll be fantastic.
Hell yes. But give me some images, man.
Sure.
Hell yes. Let's do this.
Awesome.
Right, Erik, let's let you go. You said you've been with us for nearly
3 hours, man.
Crazy.
It's been incredible.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, hopefully we didn't bore anyone. Cut out the boring parts, guys.
No, there was no boring part.
Not a minute. It's all been like fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm being serious, brother. On the you guys on the Mark Marrow, and because I see him quite often, and DDP, he's so busy right now. But if you got one or two of those things, guys, just send the shit with return postage. But give me a second.
Sure.
I know I got DDP's Christmas party is December 4th. And I know me, Mark, Dee Van Hammer, there's a list of guys, but I do know Dee, of course, it's his house, and Mark's going to be there. So if you guys give me those two things, if you want them, only if you want them, if you can get them to me, if you can get them to me before December 4th, I'll tote that shit with me and hopefully not get it stolen. Or not be too drunk to give it away to Toys for Tots. But if you send me some shit, I'll try to get it signed and then I'll send it back. Just send me some return postage. And I think it'd be cool for you guys to have it signed.
Amazing, much appreciated.
Thank you.
And if you could sign something yourself for us, it'd be incredible, because we love this. This is for us, like you say, we live this, we love it, and we do want to keep this as like a historical record. This is why we do the podcast.
Well, if I sign something, can you bump Raven's ass or someone's ass over so mine can be where I can?
Of course, bro. Yeah, man. Fuck
Jesus
it.
Christ.
Tatanka can move across.
Because I see some jabronis up there. I'm teasing. They're all more famous than me, but I want to feel special for a second, damn it.
Oh man, don't worry, you'll go right up there, Erik, for sure.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, just send a box or whatever with some postage on it. So I'll throw in some pictures or whatever I can for you guys, and then
Thanks,
we can.
Man.
And then what we can do is have me on the show where I can. Like you can just take pictures of the guys behind you. I can choose who I want to knock off.
That cool, man. We do.
The thing that sucks is you're gonna have to find someone really bad, and I don't know many really bad guys, so we're gonna have to find someone. Yeah, I'm looking like Raven.
Stephanie McMahon can. Stephanie McMahon can move.
You got way too many Sting up there, right? You got two Sting. You got Sting and Sting.
Yeah, I've got Crow Sting. I've got normal Sting.
Well, the sticker album and everything.
There's a little Sting. Yeah.
Who's the jabroni next to Sting over there?
Tatanka.
No, up one.
These one. That's Enzo Amore and Big Cass.
I don't even know those guys.
Uh-oh.
They're definitely jabronis. I can get over there. They can go the fuck over there. Who'd they ever be?
We'll fuck Luger off. He can fucking do one.
No, God, yeah, don't do that. Now he's in a wheelchair again. Don't do that. Yeah, no. But no, those guys right there, man. Yeah, those Enzos and whoever named themselves out of like car rims and shit. We need to get rid of those guys.
Okay, that's cool.
I don't even know what is that? Bootios? What's Bootios?
Oh, that's the
New Day stuff. Yeah,
that's the New Day.
Jeez, I'm that old, right? But we got Bootios. Holy crap!
I got the Hardys up there as well. You got the Hardys.
Well, no Hardys. We can get Kurt Angle.
Yeah,
look at the size of his feet.
Yeah.
Who is Kurt Angle skull fucking right there?
Oh, it's Christian.
Yeah, he was a good dude.
Yeah.
I can't talk shit about him. He's a great worker. No, he was. But I'll try to find someone else I can talk shit about. But those two guys, I definitely don't care about.
Okay, sweet.
I don't even know them. So yeah, we can get rid of them. Yeah,
cool, bro.
Sting would beat me up. Because when my dad found Sting and Hellwig, right? They weren't tagging, right? And so Sting's real name, right?
Yeah.
Steve Borden, right? And I'm not the guy that throws something out that no one knows, because I was taught that don't say real names. but everyone knows it's Steve Borden. Well, do you understand that when my dad brought him into Mid-South before he made them, Sting and Rock, the Blade Runners, right? Yeah. That's how. So when my dad made that, Sting was wrestling as Flash Borden instead of Flash Gordon. Yes. And when I found that out, I threw up a little bit in my mouth. And then I'm like, what? Really? And he's like, no, that's what they came up with. And then later on, like when Hero Matsuda, when they came up with Lex Luger, because someone like Les Luthor, but they didn't want to call him Luthor, and it was Luger. I mean, when the one of the last autograph sessions I had, way back, it was Flair's like 60th birthday or whatever it was, and sold out arena and all this other stuff in like North Carolina somewhere, and they had probably 25 really good talents there, and I was sitting right next to Animal, Road Warriors, right? And so me and him were talking. I'm like, God, when your son, so when his son played at Ohio State, he was an incredible linebacker, Laurinaitis. Mm-hmm. Well, the guy, and I don't know if he went higher in the draft because they both went high in the draft. The other killer linebacker, do you know the guy's name? His name was A.J. Hawk. Okay, no. Hold on. So it's on ESPN, and here's Animal, and they got him like he's standing in one of the corridors where you walk to your seats, and they go, look at that, it's one of the Road Warriors here to watch his son play in the shoe, because they call it the Ohio State the shoe. Sold out crowd, the people are feeling it. You got Road Warrior fans, and look, his son AJ Hawk is playing. they thought he was Hawk. Listen, I can't make this shit up. When people used to come to me, because my dad's like, don't ever give out anyone's name. So I get fans coming up and going, you're friends with Sting? I'm like, yes. They go, is that his first or last name? I go, first. They go, what's his last name? I go, Sting. His real name's Sting. Sting. Right. So I'm sitting there talking to Animal, and he's like, Erik, no one has brought that shit up. He goes, I heard about it. I had taped the game. It pissed me off so bad I couldn't see straight. So we're sitting there talking. Now let me tell you how fast life goes. So he's like, you do understand that your dad's the one that gave us this gimmick. And I get this all the time. I'm like, no, I didn't know that. Because my dad didn't go brag about what he did and didn't do, right? He's like, yeah. He said he brought us in and he gave us a VHS tape of Mad Max. And he goes, I want you to be like these characters. Crazy haircuts, crazy fucking something, come up with it. And so they were like, now listen, okay, let me ask you this, because now you're gonna make me feel like a dumbass. Remember when they used to go, ooh, yeah? Do you know why they did that? Because I didn't. I did. So I'm sitting here. Now listen, this is just whatever, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I should know this by now. I don't. So they're like, so we were sitting there and we're watching this, Mad Max, and we're like, oh yeah, Bill's gonna like this, Bill's gonna like this. So Hawk cut his hair like this, and Animal had the mohawk. And he goes, so Erik, we told your dad that we were gonna be like fucking electrical. So we made it like a socket on him. And so then we put our heads together like we were plugging it into an outlet. And when we do it, we go, oh yeah, feel the rush. Hold on. I'm going, I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. Because I never heard the story in my life. I'm like, oh my God, had I known that 20 years ago. Now listen, there's probably people that know this. I didn't know why they were plugging their heads. I didn't know they were plugging their heads in. I thought they were just hitting heads and they were just too big. No, they're like, no. We remember when we went to your dad, we had this, we did this, and then we plugged our heads in and go, oh yeah, feel the, and your dad loved it. I'm thinking, all this shit happened how many years ago? I have no idea. Because he was like, hey, can I get a hold of your dad? I really need to talk to him. I love him. He's made this. He was he was saying, Erik, he showed up at a few football games with the Road Warrior hats. Well, all of a sudden it took off. And so like at the University of Georgia game, Seattle Seahawks, all these American companies, you'll see guys now wearing like his shit or their shit. And he was wanting to talk to my dad about his business acumen, about how could he go to the NFL and the NCAA. NCAA is who goes over college athletics, and the NFL supports it. And he wanted to sit there and say, hold on, this is our shit. And we want to go ahead and trademark it or whatever. And then we want to make every college and which was a brilliant idea. So I gave him my dad's number, and I don't know how long after that is when he passed away. And I never asked my dad, what were they working on it together? Because I was I was sitting there, we were signing autographs together. I go, huh? What happened? Yeah, I was so blown away, and I can't tell you. It happened with Shawn Michaels. It happened with Macho Man. These guys will come up and tell me stories about how grateful they are to my dad, and then I'll go to my dad and go, yeah, that's exactly what happened. And I'm like, mind-boggling, because you'd think that it would come from my dad, and then I go, maybe right, maybe wrong. You hear from you actually hear the appreciation from other people. Then you go to your father and you go, Dad, is that really what happened? You're like, yeah. Like when Macho Man started in Tampa. Macho Man was pro baseball minor league. Macho Man came to my dad, and my dad said, train with Hiro Matsuda. He trained with Hiro Matsuda. And he goes, like, baseball can't know. He goes, you're from parts unknown. And they put a fucking mask on him. And because my dad believed in him, he wrestled some matches. He goes, I believe, Bill, if you'll tell me I'm good enough to wrestle, I don't want to play baseball. I love wrestling. And my dad said, you're good enough to pro wrestle. He went and told pro baseball, see you later, took the mask off him, and that's how he started. Who knows that, right? And he told me that. He told me that at a bar. I was at WCW. He was at WWE. They wrestled Baltimore. We wrestled Philly. The next night, we were going to switch towns. We went up to where they're at, staying at the Marriott. All those guys stayed. We're at a bar, and all I was going to do was go downstairs and tell him how much I appreciate the fact that it didn't matter who he's wrestling. Every Monday night, he put it on the line, and that I recorded all the matches. And I went to tell him, you're allowing someone like me to 100% continue to study and learn from you, sir. Thank you for loving the business so much that you'll put your body and your life on the line, no matter who you're wrestling, to entertain and educate the fans. That's what I went to tell him. I came up to him. They closed off the bar. We got there late, and I was coming in, and they stopped me, and it was him and Hogan and Tatanka and some other people. And I go, I'll wrestle. And I go, okay. And I walked in. I was getting ready to say, hey, Mach. She goes, oh, yeah, come here. And he's like in gimmick. I'm like, yeah. He's like, how you doing, Erik? And then he just goes into the story I just told you about Tampa and Hiro Matsuda. And I was like, looking, you want a drink? And I'm having a drink with him. And I went to go, well, sir, I was getting ready to tell him how much I appreciate him. He goes, here's my number. You keep it. Don't let anyone know you have it. I know you're going through some shit. The second you need my help, you can come to WWE. I'll take care of things at WCW because I see you're pushing it. I see you deserve it. Call me if you ever get in trouble. I said, yes, sir. I took his fucking phone number. I shredded it up and threw it away. I never called him. It was the greatest thing. But I walked out going, man, I didn't tell him how special, he was. Now, we got together later and talked later, and he asked me, and later on I'll tell you, Hunter did the same thing to me later on. I was going to Japan, and I called Hunter. I said, hey, Hunter, I want to talk to you. And he goes, hey, I just sat down for dinner with China. So that tells you about the time. I go, I want to talk to you, man. I think I want to come back to WWE. He goes, did someone tell me you're going to Japan? I go, yeah. He goes, call me back when you get back from Japan. We definitely have a space for you. I said, okay. Last time I talked to Hunter.
Well, Paul Levesque was your last match in WCW, wasn't he, when you left the first time?
And actually, it ended up in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yes, right.
And Kevin Sullivan, which is the biggest douchebag in the world, because here we are. Dusty Rhodes had told Grizzly Smith that he wanted me to go over on Levesque with my finish. Grizzly gave us the finish. No problem. Now, in the industry, old school is you job on your way out, period. Period. That's what you're supposed to do. You're leaving, job out. I didn't have a problem. Like I told you guys, I don't have a problem. We're in Jacksonville. I'm majorly over, you know, and the whole South area, you know, is just great. Even North, I was over too as a baby face, but like more in that area too. And so I was like, okay, I mean, if that's what you guys want to do, but I'm leaving. And they're like, no, Dusty said, you know, this is a special town and and he wants to give the people something. It's not about the tradition of bread. This isn't TV. It's not TV, but you know, let's just give the people what they fucking want. You know, you already jobbed out. Let's give. So Sullivan comes up and goes, what are you saying, Grizzly? And he goes, I don't give a fuck. Just like that. He goes, I don't give a fuck what Dusty's not here. This is my call. I'm like, it's gonna be interesting. And he goes, Levesque, beat his ass in the middle and beat him with his finish. Fuck him. That's exactly what happened. I go, no problem. I walked out. Let me tell you, and you know, me and Levesque and you know all that. I could say, you know, we worked out together, we wrestled together and stuff like that. But I wouldn't say, you know, me and Killer Kowalski were tight. I went up to his school a few times where, you know, Levesque was out of and all this shit. So, but we had this unspoken respect for pro wrestling, right? And he pulled me aside. He goes, Erik, no way. Why would he do that? He was just at WCW. I go, bro, you can't do this. This is not how shit happens. He's on the booking committee. He'll deal with Dusty. I'll be gone. But oh hell no. No. Beat my ass with the SDF right in the middle. He goes, not gonna do it. He goes, so now what are we gonna do? I go, well, what the fuck do you mean? What are we gonna do? And I go, well, I'm not going over. So what do you want to do? And he goes, I'll go over. And I think I'd have to have him, you know, I'd have to ask him. I think what he ended up doing was we did the match. And I think because I had like 3 or 4 different ways, which I wish I would have shown Cena some of the ways because I came up with a whole bunch of different ways to come into the SDF. Not that he needed that, but he never got really creative with it, you know, because I had a whole bunch of different ways to get into it, from a kick to this to that. I came up with some ways. And he goes, let's do the thing. Boom, bump me, throw me, we'll reverse it. I'll go to kick you, grab my foot like you go in the SDF, and I'll roll you up. And I think he actually just did a shitty, like a roll, not shitty, like, but really like a FU 1, 2, 3. And he goes, but I want you to pop out of it and come at me, and I'm gonna powder out. And so the one thing I knew about him, because we did talk some, it was just he just studied the business and loved the business. And Killer Kowalski, you know, just banged it in his brain. I'm like, this kid that I have no idea necessarily who he is. I mean, Killer Kowalski, and we talked, just pulled this on his career that's just starting at WCW because, you know, he didn't think it was a good call based on whatever. Wow, he's either going to be dead, you know, like gone in 2 seconds, or he's going to be something big, you know. And so something big was what it was, you know. And I, like I said, I haven't talked to him much, but that's true story. He brand new into WCW. We'd wrestled like 2 weeks, you know, on and off again, and we'd been in school, and you know, I don't think it was more than 2 or 3 weeks. He goes, no. And right after he was right there when Sullivan did it. He goes, that ain't happening. I was like, he goes, don't worry about it. I'm like, yeah, that was deep, man. And then for the rest of my life, he had my respect. Not because I would let him beat me with my STF 2 or 3 times because it's what the office said, right? Sure. But out of that was crazy. Like that was. I'm like, this kid could be just extinguishing his career. Because Kevin Sullivan could go, you didn't do what I said, and write him out of everything.
Yeah.
But whatever happened, and he stayed in, you know, and then he made he made his bones up at WWE. But yeah, that's kind of dude he was for sure. Yeah. All right, guys. Hey, send me some info about when the next dates are. And we'll talk offline, because I know like Sunday I've got to go for like 4 or 5 days to Orlando, and then like the 25th through the 2nd of January I'm going to do Christmas and New Year's in Vail, Colorado on the ski slopes. So
Nice.
I got some times in between, guys, that we can do this. And even though I'm going to be in Orlando, I could pop another one of these next week if we need to. But let's set the times. And then I will send you my address so you guys can send me the stuff, because we got to get it over here before that DDP party.
You're the man, dude. You're the man. Thank you
so much, Erik. Take care, man.
God bless you guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Erik.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, holy shit.
You have it.
We have rolled on this for nearly 3 hours. I'm not sure if it's hit the 3 hour mark or not.
Yes, we're at 3 hours, bro. That was
wow.
And to be honest, again, we could have just let him. We would interject with little things, and he's just
alive.
All
we can say is thank you so much to Erik Watts for doing that. That is 3 hours. We have broken a record. Chris Hamrick, you're gonna have to come back on and try again.
Yes, right.
But man, I seriously hope you've enjoyed that as much as we have. And because we've been doing this for 3 hours, it's probably best that we start letting other people go if they're listening or watching. So like, subscribe, do all that stuff, smack the bells. Let us know what you thought. Let us know if you liked it. Let us know if you loved it. Let us know if you didn't like it. It's what we do. It's what we love. And man, that was... We've
got him back for the TNA, for an exclusive TNA episode.
Stick around, because we'll do TNA.
Amazing, bro, because that was, I think, probably it could have been his best run. And it was, I mean, I never knew, obviously we never knew the background as to why he left TNA, because he was white hot right there, when he was there.
Well, it's something I've never actually seen properly. So I'm gonna go into it and take a deep dive and have a look and see.
Do it, bro. It's fucking worth it.
I can't go in unprepared on this, because Erik fucking Watts.
Yeah, man. Dude, well done for hooking it up. I will be looking through my my memorabilia wall. If you're going to send him the figure, I might send him something to get Mark Mero and DDP to sign.
Do Enzo and Cass, man.
Bro, I'm not. They get booted off the wall. Yeah, man, that was good fun. That was fucking good fun. Good.
So yeah, let's let everyone go. It's me, it's JB, it's Chris Dredd, and holy shit, that was Erik Watts. Thank you so much to Erik for doing that. We can't wait to start again, because next time it's a deep dive on his TNA career, and amazing. Thank you very much for sticking around. We love you all. Take care.
Peace.